What's up, guys? Welcome to the Alien Podcast. Today, I got one of my longtime good friends, Abe Coronado. We're going to talk about politics, him growing up, his childhood, some other things, just politics, life, things like that. So we'll go ahead and get into it. Thanks, guys, for checking it out. Okay. I have forgot. I don't remember if you were born and raised here.
No, I was born in Fort Campbell, Kentucky.
Kentucky. How long did you live there?
Not very long. My parents met in Germany during Vietnam,
Okay.
and when they came back, that's where they were stationed. And then they were told they were going to be given money for college, and so they both enlisted in college.
Okay.
And then the money ran out,
Mm-hmm.
and there wasn't, from what I understand, there wasn't any reason to stay there. And I don't really, we moved around a lot. I don't really remember where we went after, but we bounced. My mom's from Michigan and my dad's from Texas. And so we went back and forth between the two. And when we were in South Texas, we weren't doing so well. I was probably around first grade, and I don't understand the chain of events too well, but we ended up being homeless, and we lived in a storage unit.
Damn.
Yeah, so we didn't have water or electricity.
Yeah.
And I think I don't remember exactly how long. It might have been 6 months, but I was young enough to not understand how bad that was.
But you remember it?
I remember specific things, like the first night we stayed there, my sister and mom actually stayed in a storage unit, and my dad and I slept in the back of a Blazer. Everything we owned was in that Blazer.
Yeah.
And we just got chewed up by mosquitoes all night long. And then we moved to the other side, a bigger unit, and there was an outhouse, but being South Texas, you didn't go out after dark because there's scorpions and snakes.
Yeah.
And
okay.
Yeah. So, you take baths in a metal tub.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember we ate cereal, like Smurf cereal.
Mm-hmm.
That was our food, breakfast, lunch, and dinner.
Yeah.
But we don't have a refrigerator, so we use water.
Water and cereal.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
And, I'd go to school, and sometimes my dad would run out of gas, and we'd have to walk.
Yeah.
And then we met a pastor who was from Wichita, and he took a liking to my father, and we ended up moving to Wichita and lived with them for a while. And then the house next door to him came up for rent, so we moved there, and I lived there for 12 years. So I did most of my growing up in that house, is with my sister, and then I have two brothers and a sister three brothers that came along after that. So,
yeah.
But we're 12 years apart, so they had a very different upbringing than my sister and I did.
So, it's crazy. We've known each other 27 years now.
I was trying to do the math.
Yeah. As I was 14 when I went to Borderline, I think. No, 13 or 14.
Yeah.
It's around 26, 27 years.
Yeah.
I've still never met your sister.
She lives in Michigan.
Okay. That's why.
Yeah.
I remember you saying that now.
Yeah. So, when you're poor, you move around a lot.
Yeah.
And so we ended up, years later, basically homeless in Dallas, and couldn't find anywhere to live because they literally told my mom in front of my dad that she couldn't help us if she stayed with my dad.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just how the system works.
Yeah.
They break up the family, and for various reasons. But and so my dad's brother invited us to come live with him, and just outside of New Orleans. So that's where I spent my senior year. Did my freshman and beginning of sophomore year was in Wichita, and then South Texas, and then just outside of New Orleans, which was a very different place. Like I've never been anywhere that felt like that.
Yeah.
Like it didn't I don't know if evil's the right word,
Mm-hmm.
but it just so much history, so much pain, so much. I mean, it's a place where a lot of bad things happened. So it has a different kind of energy.
From the South.
Yeah.
Like, okay, so New Orleans, I've only drove through really,
Uh-huh.
but I've noticed people in the South because I had to go to South Carolina for a little bit. People in the South like have the Southern hospitality.
It's a real thing.
It is real.
Yeah.
Like it, man. You okay? So say you go to a restaurant here. And I'm like not saying anything bad. It's just how it is here.
Mm-hmm.
And you kind of get a little bit of attitude.
Sometimes, yeah. Yeah.
Down there is nothing but friendly.
Yeah.
Like anywhere I would go, like people, no matter who you are, hold the
Uh-huh.
door for you. How you doing today, sir? Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
Everything
Yeah.
like.
It's definitely a different culture than anywhere else I've ever been,
Mm-hmm.
But it's it's a dangerous place. Like I couldn't ride my bike too far from the house because I would get it would get stolen from me,
Yeah.
And the first day I went to school there, I saw a big fight in the commons area. I mean, I went to school with grown men.
Yeah.
They were grown men that were still going to school there, and it was just huge fight, and it was scary, dude.
Yeah.
It's like I've been around people fighting, but that many at one time,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. But that was normal,
Yeah.
you know?
Well, yeah. Like when a fight here is like two people, and then
Yeah.
like, yeah.
No, this was
I
a fight.
no, yeah,
Like,
the real deal, huh?
yeah,
Okay.
yeah. And then that's where I graduated from. And the day I graduated, we moved back again to Michigan, and then that that didn't work out. I worked for one of my uncles got me a job at a trucking company, and that was first job out of high school. I didn't know anything, and we worked 12-hour days and every other Saturday, and I thought that was normal.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know that that wasn't the norm,
Yeah.
And my parents decided they were moving back to Wichita, and so I went back with them. And my sister stayed there, finished out her high school there. And
Oh, okay.
yeah, and so that's around the time where you guys all met me.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right when you
Like I'd
kind of came back.
yeah, I'd always rode bikes, but when you move, sometimes you don't get to take everything. So like there were years where I just couldn't ride because I couldn't afford a bike. So
Yeah.
well actually no, I'm sorry. That's not when you met me. When we got back to Wichita, I moved to Kansas City and
I remember
worked
you.
for a
Yeah.
cabinet shop, and that's where I learned how to use table saws and all that. So that's because I had no idea what to do.
Right.
Everybody had told me you need to go to art school. It's like I don't want that to be my job,
Yeah.
and it was just weird. And I didn't understand what to do, and then I got that job. Met a very interesting man who taught me how to do laminate and cut he never measured anything.
Mm-hmm.
He would just go cut the board, and it never had a tape on him.
Yeah.
He was an interesting guy, but he taught me how to do a lot of stuff, and then I came. He made a bad decision business wise, so I came back to Wichita and got that job in aircraft cabinetry, and that's when you guys actually met me.
Right.
Yeah, because I had bought a bike when I was up there and started riding again, but I didn't have anybody to ride with.
Yeah.
I had like a kid that skated that lived near me, and so that would be because you always, if you ride street, you need someone to look for cars sometimes. So that's what basically we just hung out like that. But
because Kansas City, you had to be on the inside to know.
Yeah, like I didn't.
Right.
Yeah, like I'd go to the bike shop and I'd talk to the dudes, but no one ever like invited me to go anywhere with
Yeah.
them.
Until you like, I don't know if you rode North Park much back then, or
I did like that park, but no one else liked it.
Yeah, so they never really showed up.
Yeah,
Unless us from out of town came up there, and then they're like, "Okay, we'll go," But
yeah.
then,
I mean, if you rode ramps, I do understand that park was terrible.
yes,
But I rode the ledges and the big pyramid in the middle. That's what I liked.
I mean, it was fun. Just
It was
'cause
fun.
different.
Yeah, there was challenging things. I think that's what made it fun. It was challenging trying to learn how to ride that.
Yeah, a single
Yeah.
coping spine.
Uh-huh. It looks scary.
Yeah, but yeah. So unless you knew the crew up there to be able to get into private places or
Yeah,
whatever.
yeah. I mean, we knew Woody, and that was fun.
Yeah,
And then what was the skate park in St. Louis?
Ramp Riders.
Yeah, so we all showed up there, and he just let us live in the skate park for a week.
What is that guy? Tom Franioli?
I don't remember now, but that was
I
fun.
might
Like
butcher that.
we lived there for almost a week, I think.
He was really cool.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was a fun spot.
Oh no, yeah, you didn't go with us that one time. It was me, Justin, Les, and Travis that went there to
Yeah,
his place. Met some really cool dudes there.
yeah.
Um,
Got to know Sam a little bit better.
yeah, yeah. The one we met and kept talking to was Nick.
Nick.
I
Okay.
can't remember.
I do remember
It
Nick,
started
but
with
the
an
other,
M.
yeah, I can't remember the other guy's name, but no, that was,
Manzuka.
yeah, they just, he didn't care that we were there, and
Yeah,
we
they
just
were
had
all
fun. I
real chill.
remember the number one song on the jukebox was Metallica, and we weren't gonna let that happen, and we all just kept pumping money into it. Made Nelly the number one song. Like, it was pretty fun.
Yeah.
Yeah. My wife has always said that BMXers are assholes. Because she's from Salina and she knew all those guys.
If you're
Yeah. Like,
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
yeah. She knows how we could get.
Yeah. Unless you're one of them, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Until you just realize the extended sense of humor and the crazy amount of shit talking,
Oh
I
yeah,
guess.
destructive behavior, and
Yep.
like I remember you guys came to 521 one time, and you
I
never
think it
came
was one
back.
time for
Yeah,
me.
you never came back.
Yeah.
Like, it's just different. That's
Yeah.
why when they finally kicked us out, I was laughing. I was like, "What took you so long?" She really thought that I was going to be mad. I was like, "I get it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
You owe an apology to my neighbors, not me."
So,
But
okay, I didn't know that you really weren't you didn't grow up that much here. So you bounced around.
well, I mean, majority of my childhood was in Wichita.
Oh, it was? Okay.
Yeah, because you move and you think you're making an opportunity for yourself, but then it doesn't materialize.
Right.
And I was young, so there was a lot of it that I just wasn't privy to about what my parents were experiencing and what they were going through. And I was, but I was in a bubble.
Mm-hmm.
I would just isolate myself and pretend things weren't that bad, or justify. And it's like, but now I'm an adult and I have children, and now I can look back and see like, maybe, yeah, that probably was pretty rough on them.
Mm-hmm.
Like
Yeah.
you wake up every day and your whole existence is just surviving
Mm-hmm.
and providing for two children that, like, we were in Kansas City a couple months ago or maybe more. And there was someone begging for money on the corner, and I had cash in my pocket, so I rolled the window down and gave him $5. And my son is in the back seat. And why did you do that? Well, because if you can help somebody, just help them. Like, you don't need to make them justify it.
Mm-hmm.
And then I wasn't even thinking. And it's like, when I was your age, I didn't have anywhere to live. And so
Yeah.
that's a harsh reality to know that this person in the backseat of the car, when I was their age, I didn't have a home.
Mm-hmm.
And kind of, my wife kind of got teary eyed.
Yeah.
Because it's not something that you want to think about,
Right.
and then I tried to, like, and I can't, I try to think about at that age how I felt or saw it, and I don't have that memory.
Yeah.
Like, that thing about repressing memories it's a real thing.
Mm.
And my sister and I talk sometimes, and we share stories about childhood experiences, and there's stuff that she doesn't remember. There's stuff that I don't remember, but there's stuff that my mom doesn't remember,
Right.
and it's like, maybe, I think part of survival is pushing those things down in that moment,
Mm-hmm.
and then, like, I got married, and it was just it was to the wrong person. And I was seeing a therapist because I didn't want to be the kind of person that ended up with a person like that again.
Mm-hmm.
It was a horrible experience,
Yeah.
horrible. And you know, that thing in therapy where, you know, it's real, where they just ask a question and you just start crying
Yeah.
and you don't even understand why you're crying. So there was a lot of experiences as a child that I relived, like PTSD kind of thing, like, Vietnam vets having flashbacks kind of a deal.
Yeah.
And
My dad will, sorry to interrupt.
yeah.
He still to this day will roll off the bed in the middle of the night if there's loud thunder.
Oh yeah. You know, because that kept him alive
Yeah.
at a certain point,
Yeah.
you know? And it's the same thing, like when you have traumatic childhood experiences,
Mm-hmm.
like you become trained to do things like that, you know, like getting all my chores done so I could disappear and not be in my dad's eyesight to
Yeah.
get yelled at, you know, and then making sure I came home at dinner time because that was the only food you were going to eat that evening, you know?
Yeah.
And it's no, but the therapy, you know, what it did for me was open my eyes to a lot of why I was the way I was,
Yeah.
you know. But the main thing it did was it afforded me the ability to forgive my parents and understand that they were doing the best they could.
Realizing how hard
Yeah.
poverty is
Yeah.
on
Yeah.
the strain
And
of
you
it.
know, it really comes down to what you know. If you don't know certain things, then you're going to make mistakes. That's why, like, I'm huge on information. Like, people make better choices when they have all the information,
Mm-hmm.
you know? And I realized, you know, because of the kind of people that my parents were, there was a lot of things growing up that I wasn't taught or, you know, and it puts huge strains on a lot of the relationships that I had,
Yeah.
you know? And it's like, you know, you can't, like, you can imagine something, but if you've never seen it, you know, like I can sit here and describe, you know, a whole host of things and you'll get a mental image, but it's not going to be accurate as seeing the real thing,
Mm-hmm.
you know?
Or living it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, I had to develop the ability to communicate with people, you know, and not in the sense of giving orders, but, um, you know, when I was, when I'd graduated and I was living in Michigan, I had a little room off in the laundry room. That's where I lived. I was staying with my aunt and uncle. And I didn't talk to people. And I developed a speech impediment. I didn't, because I went so long without talking,
Yeah.
you know, and now I can't shut the fuck up, you know, and it's like it's been a real interesting journey because the therapy what it mostly gave me was a connection to myself,
Mm-hmm.
which I was kind of like taught to not have that, if that makes sense,
Right.
you know, because, um, you know, I grew up in a very religious household
Okay.
where all the information flowed down. No information was able to flow up. And so, you know, it's like that whole environment where because I said so or because God said so. And then you realize, and that's what was so scary about when I graduated, because those doors closed behind me. I didn't know what to do.
Yeah.
I didn't know where to go. I didn't know who I was. Like I was looking forward, knowing that I can't go back in there, and I didn't know what to do,
Yeah.
you know. And I didn't have anybody to talk to about it, you
Yeah.
know, and uh, and so I just did whatever someone told me to. And when that happens, you get taken advantage a lot of the times. And that's the other thing about being poor. You get taken advantage of because a lot of times somebody will say, "I'll help you," but
Yeah.
well, that's not help.
Right. Exactly.
You can't put contingencies on help.
Right.
You know, like me giving that homeless person the money it wasn't contingent on anything. I didn't need her. Well, I hope you get clean, or you better eat something organic. You know.
Or the ones that want to clean your windows
Yeah,
or
yeah. Like
trades.
there was a night we were riding downtown Wichita, and this dude came up and asked us for money, and we just all gave him everything we had. And 30 some minutes later, we seen him again. He had a whole armload of food from Quick Trip. And he saw us and he was waving at us and thanked us. And it's like, he was so happy.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, yeah. I mean, yeah, if you want to help somebody, don't judge what they do with the money. You know, if they go buy a bottle of booze, that's going to make them feel better for a little bit. And that should be the goal.
Yeah.
You know, like, you know, they're dealing with their situation the best they know how,
Yeah.
you know? And, you know, for me, like, I mean, and that's a weird thing about me is because I can't ask for help. I don't know how, you
You
know?
are.
Like, and
Yeah.
then if I get help, I feel like
You failed yourself almost. Like,
sometimes,
yeah, I
yeah,
get
or if
that.
it doesn't look the way I wanted it to, you
Exactly. Yeah.
know, and then I end up being frustrated and overwhelmed because I'm doing everything by myself,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
because, you know, and it's, but the other thing is like letting go of the fact that they are helping you.
Mm-hmm.
It is help.
Yeah.
It may not be enough or it may not look like what you want it to look like, but it's still help,
Yeah.
you know, and I think that's like, especially, you know, in a relationship like a husband and wife, you know, where you live together, you sleep in the same bed, you know, it's like having the patience to acclimate to each other,
Mm-hmm.
you know, because sometimes things can be so forced, and it's,
Yeah.
you know, and being a trim carpenter, I've realized like you can't force something through the table saw. Like let the tool work,
Mm-hmm.
you know, let the blade cut at its speed that it wants, you know,
Yeah.
and so yeah.
Mm. No, oh, that's a really good point, and it's making me realize more about like, yeah. So we both grew up with completely different backgrounds. You
Hmm.
know, my parents still live in the exact same home from the day I was born.
Yeah.
Yeah, both, worked in aircraft. I would say their parents had it harder though,
Yeah.
but kind of paved a way for them. But if I remember right, your dad kind of had. Uh, is he first generation?
His mother, my grandmother, she swam across.
Okay, so
But
he's
yeah, he's first generation.
okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like he taught himself English right before he joined the military, I believe.
Okay.
Yeah.
So he grew up with. Okay.
So I think he had 9 siblings, 8, 9
Yeah.
siblings. Yeah. And
So
I mean, he had it rough.
yeah.
He had it real, like he had it rough enough to where my mom had to tell him to quit telling us childhood stories. Like,
Wow.
you stop. They don't need to hear any more of that,
Yeah.
you know? And that's another reason, like I knew that I had to get to a place where I could forgive them,
Hmm.
you know, because they were trying to survive too. And I don't believe that they were bad people or that they had bad intentions. It's just the circumstances create the person, you know.
Yeah.
You know, like I can't imagine the person I would be if I had to go to war. I don't think I could come back.
Right.
You know, I don't, you know, because I don't want to be that person.
Yeah.
Like I'm just going to stay there.
Hmm.
Just leave me alone. You know.
My like yeah, my dad when he was over there, so he got deployed, and then my sister, my oldest sister, like if anybody doesn't know, I'm the third, I'm the youngest.
Uh huh.
And my oldest sister was born while he was over there, so he didn't even get to be here for
That sucks.
firstborn child.
Yeah.
Like which is a big thing. Like once you
Yeah.
actually go through it, people sometimes, like it's people that don't have kids and they're like, I don't want to,
Yeah.
they don't want to hear the story about your kids, but it's
No.
like, it's something you don't know until you go through it
Oh yeah.
and then experience it. So
Yeah. It's crazy how night and day it is. Because I had the expectation that it was going to change me, but I didn't know to what degree.
big
It's pretty. It's
for
pretty.
me, it was huge.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's instant.
Uh-huh.
You see that kid, and then nothing's ever the same.
Nope.
Nothing.
Then I learned a lot.
Yeah.
It's weird that I learned a lot from, you know, You know what's the craziest thing? Little side thing. Teaching a human a language.
But your language.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
like,
But then they do the same thing to you.
yeah,
Because now you guys have this inside dialogue that
yeah,
you can be somewhere and say that word that your kid taught you, and instantly they you know.
yeah,
Yeah. Like my daughter asked me a while back, is it grown-ups' job to tell kids everything? And I was like, yeah, but it's kids' jobs to tell grown-up stuff too,
hmm
you know? Because, like going back to the childhood thing, like we weren't allowed to have input on
yeah,
things. And for me as a parent, I need that input because I don't want my children to feel that way,
yeah,
you know? Like, don't just tell me you don't like green beans. Why tell me a story?
uh-huh,
You know, I want to hear a story about the green beans because what I've learned is like, oh, you may not like green beans like that, but if I make them like this, you
yeah.
might like them.
There are different, yeah,
You know,
yep,
like you put it on the grill,
mhm,
see what happens. You know, like that. It's that level of problem solving is important. You know, like don't just say you don't like something.
mhm,
You know, if you like same thing with opinions. Like explain why you feel the way you do. Tell me a story. Don't just, and I think a lot of people, they don't have a story, you know?
yeah,
It's like something you've never experienced and you have that much of an opinion on it,
yeah,
you know? So, in the same vein of why, like, I quit trusting when people tell me what someone said.
mhm,
No, I'm going to go find out. I'm going to go listen to them myself and then make my own decision,
yeah.
you know?
Which is nice this day and age. Like, my son doesn't realize that.
Yeah.
Your kids these days, like, he'll be like, "Well, look it up." If I don't have the answer or
Uh-huh.
something, don't know it right away,
Yeah.
look it up, and I'll think back to that. Like, I had to go downstairs and pull a thesaurus that was outdated,
Uh-huh.
and like, or in that case, like, you know, or you probably didn't have thesauruses all the time,
Yeah.
and but now, yeah, we literally remember the elites only had access to the Library of Alexandria. I believe that's how it was, I
Yeah.
think.
Or the church.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, that's yeah.
Yeah, in a lot of cultures, the church was
Mhm.
who held all the information. I mean, that was what's the big deal about the guy that started translating the Bible
Yeah.
for the general public.
Oh.
Yeah, I'm not going to try to remember names.
Yeah. Like, I just heard this not too long ago too, which stinks, but anyway, yeah. But, yeah, it's like now we literally have at our fingertips, like,
Uh-huh.
everything,
Yeah,
and it's so crazy, and what it gets used for,
I know.
that's what cracks me up about, like, TikTok or whatever,
Yeah,
which, um
influencers. Yeah, I don't mind the
yeah.
memes though. The memes are good. The memes can stay.
I don't know what, like, influencers, I still don't I
I think it's a
I
it's a
guess
it's a weird way to find validation.
yeah.
Because what you're creating is, they say content, but what's the end result of the content? Like, I understand someone going to sitting in the field and painting a picture of what they see, or a photographer,
Yeah.
but it is. But then also I've heard like, don't quit paint. We can just go look at it. Paint something no one's ever seen before.
Mhm.
You know, and it's just. But the whole social media thing to me is, and I'm glad that I held off on it as long as I did. You know, um, and I only use Instagram, but it's like I've fine tuned it to where it shows me stuff that I actually want to, that I have an interest in.
Yeah.
And, it's weird, the terminology, your feed, like
Yeah.
it's not food,
Yeah.
you know, but,
Yeah.
but people look at it as like, and I'm guilty of it too sometimes, where's my phone?
The
I,
mindless
I, I
scrolling.
need, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. It's very addictive.
But there is people like, okay, so one of our, um, that Nash has went to his park, and Tanner, I don't consider like, I don't think he does really either, influencer or whatever. Me and him talked about that here.
Yeah.
But more of an entertainer, but somebody who loves to tell a story,
Uh-huh.
and he does. He does a really good job.
Yeah.
Makes like if you go watch some of his videos on his main channel, like he does a really good job telling a good story and making a good
Like
film
stories of things that happened or made
that
up
he goes and
stories?
does,
Okay.
like skydiving, or
Yeah.
he went to Norway, I believe,
Yeah.
and did in the wintertime jumping off the cliffs
Yeah.
into the water because it's like a cultural thing over there.
Uh-huh.
So, and then
Yeah.
told the whole
Well,
story
and
about that.
yeah, and what
And
makes a good storyteller is able to infuse the emotion
mhm,
into it and recreate how you felt and again and again and again every time you tell that story.
yeah,
And that's what's funny. Like, I prank my wife all the time telling her outlandish stories
yeah,
that are made up, and she believes them because I believe them.
yeah,
In that moment, like I believe my own lie.
yeah,
And it's funny, like you can, but that's what makes storytelling so fun. Is like you do it in such a way where the person's imagination opens up and they start feeling that emotion.
yeah,
You know?
yeah, yeah. It's like I feel like I actually like watching his videos.
Yeah.
That he tells a really good story about those places or where he went,
Uh-huh.
or you know,
Yeah. And if you're
getting
if
his skydiving
yeah, and if
license.
you're really really good at that, you don't have to rely on the camera and the editing to
Hmm.
that becomes secondary.
Yeah,
And I think that's like most of the stuff that I watch that comes up on Instagram for me is like stand-up comedy.
yeah,
Like
yeah.
that's my favorite thing to watch. Like I love hearing people talk about day-to-day life in sarcastic sometimes or outlandish ways.
Uh-huh.
It's like I think that's what's unique about like people who like BMXers or skaters or anything like that is you have this imagination that is a little bit different. It's like one of those hobbies where if you really can't imagine it, you're not going to do it.
Hmm.
You have to like that was I mean that's the level of anxiety that was under when I was younger is I can't imagine how I didn't have a heart attack. But that's what made me like not do a lot of stuff. But
Hmm.
then the stuff that I did do, I usually got it first try and I didn't crash and burn because I had thought about it in my head so many times.
Yeah,
Like when I built that shed, I don't know how many times I laid in bed building it in my head over and over and over and over.
yeah,
And then I ordered the lumber and it just went together.
yeah,
It's seamless. Like, it's like that. A lot of people like, there are times where I'm overthinking,
hmm,
but I'm also thinking it through,
yeah,
maybe to a detriment, obviously, but,
yeah. I'll do that to
but I
myself
mean,
too. Yeah, like
I've learned to wire my brain differently to where I'm no longer arguing with people I don't know anymore. And
yeah,
I'm actively trying to solve problems in my head
and learn.
and maybe
Yeah,
problems that I should leave alone, but you
yeah,
know, still if I cook a meal, like I've cooked it in my head like 10 times already.
yeah,
Like I know, and then that's the frustration of my wife when it's all said and done. I'm sitting there talking about I'm gonna do this different next time, and instead of sitting there and actually enjoying it,
yeah.
you know, like, keep those thoughts in your head, dude.
There's a little. So I had like, cause I've always like tried to do everything like real perfect. So
Hmm.
this wire mess drives me nuts, but that's so much cheaper than the other way.
Yeah,
Well, I had an extra piece of drywall right when I was laying all this out, and I did the same thing in my head. How do I want it to look and everything? And they can't see it on camera, but that piece of drywall was not big
I
enough.
saw it.
Yeah. You know how hard it was to be like, I don't need to go spend $15 for
Yeah,
one piece of drywall because that does not get seen on camera.
no,
And it's only like a two and a
yeah.
half inch
Oh
look
yeah, I
at.
got
You
tons of
can't.
stuff like that around the house. Like I know it's there. Nobody else cares.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It'll never get seen. And I'm like,
yeah.
yeah, it still bugs me. that it's not
You'll
perfect,
you'll do
but
something about it one day.
yeah,
But
probably build a whole new wall.
yeah, but then they'll have that element again. You're never going to escape that. I think people who are perfectionists will always find something like that.
It will.
You know,
Yeah.
like it's yeah. I've learned how to like. Okay, we don't have to throw all of it away. You know, we can move forward still. You know,
Yeah.
and I think that's why the job I have now. You know, it was the best job I ever had in my life. And I think the first 2 weeks I worked there, I didn't even care how much they paid me. I never even looked.
So there's been people I know that have just been so burnt out at work, they end up getting fired. Not really them getting fired. They fired themselves,
Yeah,
right? For not coming to work and everything like that, or they just quit altogether.
yeah.
And some of them get off their anxiety medicines.
Mm-hmm.
They tell me they're
Yeah.
happier than they've
There's
ever
no
been, and
windows
they make
there.
half the
You have
money.
no windows.
I don't.
Yeah.
I don't have a
The
single
job I
window.
had for 15 years, I walked in and out of there for 15 years. And you know, in the wintertime, you go to work, it's dark. And when we left, it was dark.
You want to hear some real bullshit?
That messes with your head.
Yeah. I have to badge out now,
To get out of the building?
out of the building.
That's awesome.
Much of
Man. I honestly don't know how I pulled that off for 15 years.
I'm 20 in
Yeah.
now. Like,
Yeah.
it used to be so much more relaxed, and it's like some of it still is
Yeah.
to my first level boss, his boss.
Yeah.
It's cool, and then it stops there.
Well, yeah, because I mean, imagine if you were still in the position you were 10 years ago,
Mm-hmm.
you know? Like my wife's job is the same way. Like she started out on the ground level and now she manages it. And so she has a level of freedom now that other people don't have. And, you know, it's like you've passed the test. So now here you get to play with us now.
Yeah,
You know, it's
yeah. I mean, yeah. When it's just a big corporation, I mean, you guys hear about Boeing being under the gun all the time now
yeah.
for anything and everything, and it's real. You know, I'm not a Boeing employee, but
It still affects you.
it does.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like I still have an interest in what goes on in aircraft, just I think simply because I was so involved in it. And, you know, I got in at a time where it worked.
Hmm.
You know, I had a great job. I had good benefits. And then honestly, everything changed after 9/11. That's when everything changed. But um it was like that meticulous style of work which suited my brain. You know, I could put my headphones on and like, oh, you want me to build it to 1,000th of an inch? Yeah, I'll do that.
Yeah.
I'm wired for that. And then, you know, when I left and started working on homes, I realized like,
What's the tolerance? Is a quarter?
well, I mean, for what I do, you know, I mean,
You're still ingrained for thousands.
no, no, I've
Okay.
let that go for sure. No, I think most of it is, my thing is to make it look like it belongs, you know,
Yeah.
and talking to the customer and trying to get them to communicate what they envision. Can you show me some pictures? How does this make you feel? Because that's kind of how I talk to them. Like,
Yeah.
I think how something, I mean, this is like, don't ask me what I would do. I don't live here.
Yeah.
You know, I want to create something for you to where, you know, one of my best experiences, we did a kitchen remodel for a woman and, she had basically strong armed her husband into it. It's like, I want a new kitchen. And he didn't want to change anything. And we had gotten quite a bit of work done one day. And she came home and she used to start crying. And it just like, I'd never thought of it like that. Like, this is your space and what you imagined you just got.
Mm-hmm.
It moved her. Like she was so thankful. And like, I'd never looked at it from that angle, you know, because I'd always built cabinets for wealthy people that I was never going to meet,
Yeah.
you know?
Oh.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then having to meet someone that I just did, you know, and that's what I feel like the job I have now, why it lined up so much. Cause it's just more personal.
Mhm.
You know, we sometimes take care of more than we should, but it creates a level of trust with the customer, and then they tell their friends, and they tell their, and so, and then being in a small town, that word travels fast.
Mhm.
Like people know what they're getting with us, you know, and um, yeah, it's just interesting for me to be so involved in people's lives like that, you know, especially when they're spending that much money on something.
Yeah. You know, I've often said at work, if they would, I mean, I don't know if you know, I can't really talk about it too much on camera or anything like that, but what we do out there and what we send out,
Uh-huh.
f- fly the damn thing back so people can walk through it and look
Hmm.
at it. And then maybe they'll have
Yeah.
an attachment
Yeah.
or a sense of, I built that,
Uh-huh.
you know, rather than we put this in that goes off and I don't
No,
know what the
yeah,
hell.
I agree with that.
Uh,
That would mean a lot to a lot of people,
yeah,
you know?
if they actually get to see it.
Yeah. Cause from what from what I understand where I worked, like we were cabinet builders,
Mm,
and then they reduced that down to furniture assemblers.
yeah.
So you no longer build the whole cabinet, you build sections of it.
Mm,
And for me, that broke my heart because I used to make all my own parts. Sometimes I'd have to go machine stuff,
mm,
you know?
yeah.
And then they were trying to tell me, well, you're just going to build this part. But I know how to build all of it. Yeah,
Yeah.
we're not doing that no more. It broke my heart to hear that that's the direction they took it, you know?
Yeah.
And because I've built some crazy stuff.
Yeah.
I built a $400,000 galley with another
Yeah.
guy. Took a month.
You guys built stuff for like the Saudi princes, even,
I
didn't you?
did. I was, yeah, I did have something to do with that. Yeah.
Because we've sent things out, and I know
Yeah. So,
they get stuff
yeah, they sent us
from PP or
to
the
Georgia to help build that cabinetry for that. And then I got sent to Norfolk to help with the install.
yeah, because we have the private jet models or
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah. But that was a 747.
Oh, okay,
It was wild,
the
dude.
big one.
It was,
So somebody
it
had
was a
money then.
palace in the sky.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there's one parked over there right now too. They're just so crazy, like huge, and that's what I'm saying. Like the only thing we ever get to see back over there now is like some little bombardiers, which
Yeah.
maybe they're on the other side of town. I think most of that stuff's in Canada now,
Really.
but like it's cool. Like when you see something that I've walked by
Uh-huh.
where it gets built, it they discontinued it now,
Hmm.
but it's cool. It's like okay, I see it. You know,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
I see
No,
with wheels on it,
yeah,
and
I never thought of it like that.
yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. I like when we're done with someone's house and then they put all their stuff back where they want it. And then, you know, you go back and do a few extra things and then it's like, oh, now, because a lot of stuff sometimes doesn't make sense until the customer starts putting their furniture back in
yeah,
and like, oh, that's why you wanted this, and this, and this, and this. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
built-ins or something custom. Yeah,
Yeah.
custom.
Some are easier than others, especially
Yeah.
if you don't have the framing in the right place. And yeah, I hate putting shelves in with hollow wall anchors.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it's not going to last.
Yeah. Okay, so like yeah, it's so much nicer if you plan it out
Hmm.
of what you want to put
Yeah,
something.
which is what I try to stay ahead of all that stuff, you know,
Yeah,
and
because then it works out so much
yeah,
better
it
for
wears
what
your
you
brain out
have
sometimes, but
envisioned.
yeah,
Yeah.
you know, so became a father, moved to Lawrence, and I'd lived there before, and you know, we've talked about this earlier about how different life is raising kids in different places,
Hmm.
you know, and having moved around a lot as a kid, it the other thing it made you do is like what we talked about in New Orleans and stuff is the South is how different we are from place to place, but how the same we are.
Hmm.
You know,
Yeah.
everybody wants the same thing.
Right.
You know, and that having grown up in different cultures and different areas, like you don't let that go. Like everybody really, really does want the same thing, you
Yeah.
know? And it's interesting to me, especially in a town like Wichita that is so diverse, very, very diverse, and the food, but there's in the schools and all that stuff. But there's like, to me, that when I get away, and this is, been out of Wichita for 8, 9 years now, it's crazy how the highway system has divided it so well. You know, like if you're not careful, it'll take you an hour to get across town. If you
Here
don't, yeah,
it does.
if you don't know when to not take this road, or
Right.
it's weird how that, because you think like, oh, the highway, I'll just get on the highway, I'll be faster. Like, no, no,
Yeah, sometimes knowing the back roads, yeah.
yeah,
Yep.
yeah, but no, that was the interesting thing to me about the people in different areas is like how that affects everything, you know?
Uh-huh.
Yeah,
Yeah, because it's so insane, like, yeah, how diverse Wichita is.
yeah.
And uh, I've never really stayed in Lawrence more than a night or two. Um, but how different we can be just 2 hours apart.
Oh yeah, yeah. It's a college town, so things are going to move at a
I
different
guess,
pace. Yeah, but if there's a big game there, it's chaos.
yeah.
It'll make you feel like you're in Wichita.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah,
But
but
yeah, being
yeah,
this,
things definitely move a little slower there, which I kind of like.
yeah. Would you say it's still blue collarish there, even though, like, I mean, because here
It's well, you
it's
get a
aircraft or healthcare.
yeah, but it's a college town, so you get people who are only there for 2, 3, 4 years, and then they're gone.
Okay.
So it is a melting pot in the sense of people are from everywhere. You see all kinds of license plates, especially when it's like those events where the parents are there in Texas and Illinois and all that stuff. But I think the turnover rate is what keeps Lawrence kind of Lawrence.
Yeah.
People aren't there for very long, and they tend to make the most of it.
Right.
You know.
Because I remember, when I stayed out in Pennsylvania for a while, and I wasn't too, the closest place to go back to was State College, which is basically like a bigger Lawrence.
Uh-huh.
Really, I mean, it's Penn State
Yeah.
there. So I remember this one guy was like, "Yeah, summertime, it clears out because of everybody getting out of college, or
Yeah.
going back home."
Well, isn't it the same here because of the McConnell?
Oh yeah,
You do kind
people.
of get that, but not to that extent. Yeah.
Yeah, a
Yeah.
lot of kids, like especially in my son's school district, they yeah, he'll be like, "We got a new kid,"
Yeah.
and it's because military
Yeah.
family. Yeah. So yeah, aircraft, military. Since we have the Air Force base, and then healthcare is like
Yeah.
another big one. Yeah,
Yeah.
or you know things that roll up, other things that feed aircraft.
Yeah.
So
Which that was eye opening, just how like all these smaller machine shops and stuff in town
it's a
that
lot.
facilitate that going on.
Yeah, and I think a lot of them been hurting right now with how Boeing. Yeah, they don't realize like all the things they do, the cutting corners or the way they run the business now,
Yeah.
how it affects. I mean, it's been able to provide good living
Yeah, but I
for
think every
smaller.
industry, I mean, the places that we would eat at 4 years ago, the quality of ingredients they use now are terrible.
It's horrible.
You can tell. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, the cutting corner things is happening everywhere,
Hmm.
because things are costing more. And you want to stay in business, well, you got to figure out you're going to fire some staff, you're going to use cheaper ingredients.
Yeah.
It's got to be the same thing in industries, that like manufacturing too.
You think old RFK will have anything to say about all
I'm sure he's going
that?
to have a lot to say. I don't know how.
What can get done?
Yeah, because there's so much bureaucracy.
Yeah.
You're. I mean, government is an industry.
Yeah.
It's not like they're hiring the best and the brightest. you know.
Yeah, and you know how yeah, true.
While I think he has a lot of good things to offer, it doesn't mean that he's going to be able to do it.
Yeah.
It's I don't know. I'm glad this whole thing's over with for the most part. It's still not over, but like at least we can take a breath.
Yeah.
Like the most painful part's over.
To the ones that view it, I mean, I get that there's protests, like we have the right to protest to go, show we disapprove of something. Maybe it could sway a vote,
Maybe,
some at a
yeah,
local government or something like that, right? But for the most part, I've always looked at it as I can't do anything for 4 more years,
yeah,
presidential wise.
yeah,
2 more years for congressional
yeah,
and stuff like that. Like,
yeah.
so it's like once it's done, like to me, it's kind of like that's it,
Yeah, the way the whole system is set up, like I feel like it'd be affecting actual change. The process in doing that is so corrupted.
Y-
It's like government has just gotten so huge. Like, where do you start?
Mhm.
You know, like you want to pay attention to this small portion over here and ignore the rest of it, or do you do a little bit in every every agency?
Mhm.
You know, and the messaging for me is what's mostly confusing because like who's coming up with some of these terms?
Yeah.
I mean, they're that's not how I would say it. Like defund the police. Why would you say it like that?
Right.
Nobody in their right mind wants to defund police. But
Mhm.
what did it do? It created turmoil. It created
Mhm.
an argument. And then now we're infighting with each other instead of standing up together to look at the same thing,
Mhm.
you know? And it's just like the war on drugs, like it's like all these terms, they don't sound good.
They don't.
No. Like everything's a battle, a fight. We got to fight cancer. Like I don't want to fight cancer.
Yeah.
It's like that terminology. For me, it promotes not doing anything.
Mhm.
You know, how do you have a war on drugs?
It's a lost cause and a
Yeah,
lot of money out the window
yeah.
when they could be profiting off of it rather than
Well, I
spending
mean,
it.
they did figure that out eventually.
Yeah.
Like I don't think legalization of marijuana was going to happen until they figured out how they could make money off of it.
Mhm.
You know, and
Yeah.
it's like everything else. Like it somebody has to profit for it to work.
Yeah.
You know, like it's like that's why like Lawrence has a real big issue right now with homeless people.
Oh, it's here too.
Yeah, oh, it's scary here,
Yeah.
but it's there's no money in it.
Mhm.
Why should we care? There's no money in it. And that's the problem with a capitalist society is it's driven off of profit and greed. Like you can't just help people no more.
Mhm.
You know, like it's sad. You know, like having to justify why I gave that homeless person money.
Right.
You know.
Yeah, and there's a lot of things like well, I don't know. We're so big now. The country's so big now that I don't know, with the government taking away like, the church was the original welfare,
Uh huh.
back in the day, and then
Yeah.
once, the income tax came along, and then unemployment and the welfare system,
Hmm. Yeah.
which I'm not smart enough to understand all that stuff
Yeah.
right now, but it
Well, it took power out away from the communities and gave it to the government.
that's kind of yeah,
And
that's what I
if you
was
think
looking
about a
for.
lot of these agencies are kind of just institutions of welfare,
Mhm.
you know, and I think we've forgotten what what it means to have a small government and government out of your personal lives.
Yeah.
I don't remember
With
who said this, but the
with
quote, "You only feed government when you need it."
yeah.
You know,
With people
yeah,
you know.
yeah, and it's. I mean, you've turned over government to lawyers.
Yeah.
All they do is debate the law.
Mhm.
and figure out what's acceptable, what's not. Well, over here we can get away with it, but over here you can't.
Get earmarks and
Yeah.
everything else
Yeah,
with it.
and there's no transparency.
Mm.
You know, they had a guy voting or running for local government in Lawrence, and he was going door to door talking to us, and people liked him because he was actually talking to you.
Yeah.
He was listening to what you were saying, and then that's the platform he ran on. He literally ran on a platform that the community was talking about. And I don't know if he won or not, but I voted for him. I thought he was articulate and well informed, and you know, it's, and yeah, like what everybody was saying is what he ended up running on.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's what was so interesting about, and I don't know how this is all going to turn out yet. I don't think any of us do, but, you know, Trump said, you know, they were floating the idea of Pompeo and Nikki Haley, and that became, within 3 hours, that was the number one thing on Twitter from what I read. And then he came out with a tweet saying they weren't going to be in his administration. Now, I don't know if that's a direct correlation to the people putting that out there, but it looks like it, you know?
The
like that
public opinion.
Yeah, like that maybe public opinion did sway that.
Mm-hmm.
You know? We'll see. But like I think the public anymore doesn't understand how much power they actually have.
Yeah.
You know? Like we're being, the illusion of choice, the illusion of what's important, you know, that like the whole Harris campaign was, you know, we're having celebrities tell us what they want.
Yeah.
How out of touch can you get?
And I go back and forth on this. Like, what I question people, are there really people out there that their vote is swayed by, you know,
The Rock?
You know? Yeah.
Yeah.
Like and the other thing is like you know, the right's real guilty of this too, of, oh, that person doesn't, you know, why they like her.
Yeah.
Never watching your movies again, never listening to your music again, something like that.
Yeah.
And it's like, I don't know. I look at it as like they can have their opinion.
Yeah.
Maybe I don't
agree
with it.
Yeah. I just didn't understand their strategy to have rich people that I'm never going to see pumping gas next to me tell me what I should be voting for.
Yeah.
You know,
really
like,
good. Like,
that to me, that's so tone deaf and over the top to think that the general public is going to accept that. Mm-hmm. Like, I don't think they understand what the general public is experiencing right now. I mean, we had COVID, can't talk about it.
Yeah.
It doesn't get brought up anymore. Like, we need to have a discussion around that, like, to make sure that doesn't happen again. That, you know, we were lied to, we were pushed down, forced to do something that we didn't feel right doing.
Yeah.
And then shamed over it if we didn't participate, if you didn't say the right words.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
And that's that. Going back to RFK, that's what's, to me, that's interesting, that he actually went through picking him, and then the agency that he wants to put him in charge of, and seeing the blowback from that. But then look at the work that he's done as an environmental lawyer. Whose side do you think he's on?
Yeah, he sued Trump over some land.
Yeah.
Which they ended up thanking him for later.
I may not like or agree with everything RFK says, but he has a track record that proves itself.
Yeah.
You know? And I don't know. We'll see how much he can actually do in 2 years, 3 years, you know?
And his is like a legitimate good cause that I don't think you can argue that's not good.
Yeah.
You know,
like, people need to know what's in their food, what's in their water, why they feel the way they do, you know? But that also has to happen on a personal level. Again, I'm not going to rely on RFK Jr. to save us. You know, it has to be personal accountability.
It does.
If you don't feel good, figure it out. Don't wait for the government to figure it out for you. You know, like people need to realize the power they have. And I don't think you can vote with your dollar very well anymore, but you can make lifestyle choices that make you less reliable on the healthcare industry or psychiatric industry, you know.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, I don't get me wrong. I think psychiatry is a great thing and we should all try it at some point, but it's like you know, if you don't need it, don't fund it,
Yeah.
you know, because it is an industry, you know.
Yeah.
It's like, you know, people are taking advantage of in that stuff too, or not. You know, it's like if you like where we live, it's hard to find a therapist.
Really?
Yeah, a good one.
Uh-huh.
You know, it's like everything. There's good ones and bad ones. There's people
That's crazy.
yeah,
That people want to go there and get trained
yeah,
there, you know, go to
but the
school.
money's in Kansas City.
Yeah.
You know,
And then not stay and help,
yeah,
you know,
yeah,
their community or something.
yeah,
Or somebody that was born and raised there and then go to school there for it and then bail, you know?
yeah, because the housing's too much and they don't want to deal with, you know,
Yeah.
college town. I get it, you know, but it's like teaching. If you know, you have good teachers, bad teachers, and it seems to have a correlation where if you pay people more, they care more.
Yeah. And trained better.
Yeah.
You know, like
Yeah.
the things we need to put money into that, you know, we waste
Yeah.
so much taxpayer dollars on that should be going to, you know,
Yeah.
training police better, training our
Yeah. Don't
education.
defund them. Train them better. Don't
Yeah.
give them military grade weapons. Like, train them better.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, it's like make them do, you know, exercises. Like, you know, it's like mental health, physical health, everything. Make it mandatory.
Be more approachable, make them to where they're,
Yeah.
you know.
I mean, I think I've met more good cops than bad cops in my life,
Same
but
here.
it's always the bad ones that stick out. You
Yeah.
know?
With anything.
Yeah.
And, you know, I heard something the other day. It's like when somebody does something really big and it goes haywire, that they did something bad, right? It gets blasted all over the
Yeah.
news. Nobody ever remembers their apology.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
the apology never makes the same amount of headlines,
Yeah.
or, you know, like,
Well, it's everything's sensationalized now. And
yeah,
it's kind of hard to sensationalize someone showing compassion and
yeah,
emotion in you know, in but then you have the other apologies like, well, it's funny how like it's different like when someone like a cop or a nurse apologizes and a celebrity apologizes.
mm-hmm.
You know,
Yeah,
yeah, it's way
different
different.
standards.
Yeah, because you
Yeah.
know, like, there's no lawyer telling you how to apologize when you're a cop necessarily. You know, you'll have
Right.
your boss and everything, but these celebrities have people that are like, here's what you're gonna say and here's how you're gonna say it. You know, because you're used to being on camera, but
Yeah. And I'm not saying apologize for like you know, some of the horrific things that have happened, you know, I'm not, that's a completely
that's
different
different.
level.
Yeah, yeah,
You know,
yeah,
owning up that they just pulled you over because they're having a bad day or
yeah,
something like
yeah.
that, or, you
Apologize
know,
for just being a human, having
yeah,
yeah,
yeah, things on that level, not the big stuff
yeah,
like that. You know,
yeah,
that's stuff's a different story.
yeah.
But yeah, so what do you think? What do you think happened this election? What, like I was
I
talking.
think that people have been uh let's frame it. Like go you know, COVID was a real wake up call, I think, for a lot of people.
Mhm.
And my personal experience with it was, you know, I got the vaccine because I thought I was doing the right thing. And then,
I was gonna get fired
yeah,
if I didn't get
well,
it,
I probably,
and then they dropped it.
yeah, I might
It
have gotten fired
pissed
if I
me
didn't
off.
do it. But
Yeah,
I I remember Fauci going on TV and telling us not to do our own research, and that was where it shifted for me
yeah,
because like I said, going back to how I grew up, you know, having information withheld, being lied to, I was like, I'm not doing that.
yeah,
Like, if you're telling me not to do my own research, if you're telling me not to look something up, then why do we have dictionaries,
right.
you know, and encyclopedias and History Channel? And So I started looking deeper into it and realizing that the media sources I was going to were lying to me. And basically I was following the money,
Yeah.
and it was interesting that our tax dollars went to funding this whole thing. And, it's going to be free. It wasn't free. We paid for it,
Mm-hmm.
and then the power grab that happened after it, you had,
After COVID.
or during it, it's like
Yeah, that
the
too, yeah.
shutdowns, all these small businesses that were lost, but the big chains got to stay open.
Yeah.
It wasn't right. Like, it went against the American dream,
Yeah.
and we couldn't talk about it. We couldn't, we were told that this person's bad and this person's good. And it's like, it just, I saw the whole country just withdraw and become afraid. You go to the store, like, do you have it? What about you?
It did. It made you.
It made you turn on people that it's like, well, why did I do that? I mean, I did it.
Yeah.
You see somebody without a mask, I'm like, oh, you
Yeah.
people. And then we label them,
Yeah.
it's like, and then the whole Ukraine situation happened. And now we have the thing with Israel, and people are starting to wake up because I think what they forgot was everybody has social media.
Yeah. The news comes so
If you
quick
want to
now.
know something, you can find out real fast
Yeah.
what's going on. And they lost control of the narrative,
Yeah.
and while people were really, really divided these last couple of years, I think the images that keep showing up on our screens, we can't ignore them anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Like when you had the Gulf War in Iraq, that wasn't that you could find the videos, of people being murdered,
Yeah.
but it wasn't on mainstream media.
Yeah.
They weren't showing it. They weren't showing the videos of giant military bulldozers just burying people in the sand.
Yeah.
And now, this current administration has spent a year live streaming a genocide
Dehumanizing.
and making us pay for it.
Yeah.
And then forcing other countries to pay for it too.
Mm.
And I think people had enough. Like, I don't think anybody voted for Trump. I think they voted against what was happening.
Mm-hmm.
Then in Ukraine, watching, like, people are still making documentaries about what's going on in Flint.
Yeah.
That is,
And it's still not solved.
it's still a thing.
Yeah. Is it solved?
No. Oh, the
Okay.
rich part of town.
Okay.
But
Well, yeah.
you have people in East Palestine who are developing weird cancers that their water's messed up, and it's like in Lahaina, all these the hurricanes in the south, like, Americans are starting to realize that the government's not for them.
Yeah.
Like, all their money's going to fund these pet projects of these people in the Congress and the Senate and people around the world that are actually controlling everything, and that's what I think happened. I think, people made a hard turn to the Democrats last time, and now they made a hard turn back to Trump,
Mm-hmm.
which, if you remember, the first time he ran against both parties. They both ran against him.
Yeah.
But the messaging was there. No one else was talking like that, and we talked about it. And because someone had a good analogy, like, it's the wrong messenger, but the right message.
Yeah.
Like,
Hey.
but this is what you get.
Yeah.
He's a symptom of our society,
He
and
is.
we need, as Americans, we need to start having a conversation around that. I think that's kind of what's beginning to happen from what I see, because I personally have been able to have these conversations with random people that I meet.
Yeah.
And everybody, it's not hard to listen to somebody for a little bit and figure out, are they being genuine, or are they just repeating whatever their media source told them?
A lot.
Yeah. Because what the hard shift that happened was all the mainstream media is being ignored, and they don't know what to do.
Mm.
And now it's starting to own up to the fact that Twitter and TikTok And that's where a lot of younger people are getting their news from. Podcasts. Like as far as political savvy, Trump going on all those podcasts, that's probably what did it. He was able to go on these different platforms and have not political conversations, but just conversations. And people got to see a different side of him.
I was surprised. Like, I was wondering how that was going to go when he went on Rogan.
On all of them. He went on, like, Theo Von's podcast.
Yeah.
And Theo Von is not going to talk about necessary. He's going to make, he's going to be playful.
Yeah.
And the fact that he did all that and came out of it looking better, and it says something about what average Americans are looking for. They want a human being in there.
Yeah.
And I'm not justifying him being president. I'm just saying, politically speaking, that was a damn good move on his part.
Yeah.
Because what the mainstream media is not understanding is you have two generations of people right now that probably don't even know what CNN is. They're not watching TV.
Yeah.
Like, why would I watch TV when there's a commercial break every 15 minutes?
Yeah.
I'm going to stream.
Big Pharma commercial.
Yeah. Brought to you by Big Pharma. Brought to you by, if you don't use our products, your clothes are going to not be clean. Brought to you by, if you don't drink our drink with your friends, you're not going to have as much fun.
Yeah.
People are tired of that messaging, because it's, and I'm not a young person anymore, and I can't stand them. But I sit back sometimes and I look at them like, they are the ones that are going to inherit all this. What are we leaving for them?
Well, they say,
why are they turning their back on us?
Yeah. Well,
they are.
It sounds like Gen Z. Is that the newest generation?
I don't know.
I think it is.
Yeah, probably.
From what I hear, is they're the ones fed up with it.
There's nothing for them.
Yeah.
They can't afford anything.
Yeah.
They have multiple roommates, multiple jobs. Like, why would anybody in their right mind who doesn't come from generational wealth go to college? Why would you do that right now?
Yeah. And that was the other thing, like, where this all became about, because I text you about, are we watching the parties flip before our very eyes?
I don't think there's a left and a right anymore as far as.
Well, I don't think that either.
Yeah, I think when corporations became people too, it's a free for all.
Yeah.
Everybody's just going to go to the highest bidder.
Because here's how I look at it. Like, what's the biggest issues that are getting forced out there, fed to us by two candidates? Which one's okay? Like, if I'm forced to pick between the biggest things on both of these sides.
Yeah.
And I watched, like, Tommy G, he's a YouTuber, and some other ones, like, going around and the illegal immigration deal. And there was, Tommy G went to a bunch of, like, African American, like, heavily.
Yeah.
They're pissed because they're being overlooked.
Yeah.
So they're wondering why Trump got more of the African American vote this time.
Because he's not up there talking about rampant racism. He's talking about other things. And you have the Democrats running on all these different platforms that people aren't feeling.
Yeah.
Like I understand trans rights and gay rights and
do we need to hear about it though?
But I don't know.
I think it's a given.
Well, that was the issue when they went after Dave Chappelle as being anti-trans. What his point was is, and he articulated it very well. He's like, black people have been fighting for these rights for generations, and you're putting these people in front.
That's how they feel.
And he said, why is it when a white man does it, it's okay?
Yeah.
It's like he made a good argument. It's like, hey man, we were here first.
Yeah.
Nothing against these people, but what about us?
I think they make up less than 2%.
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't know either.
I live where I live. It's just common and it's not a big deal. Nobody cares, And but it's just interesting what we're told we're supposed to care about. When average Americans aren't, I don't see what you're talking about.
Yeah.
That's not happening
And
right here.
it's not that we don't care, it's that okay, this has existed.
Yeah.
Why does it have to be like this? Okay, I'm not falling in line, so now I'm
Yeah.
uh
You're a bad person. You're a
yeah,
misogynist or you're sexist or you're racist.
every
It's like,
word.
well,
That's the
I
other
don't
thing.
feel that way.
No.
Like, I'm in line trying to buy groceries next to a person who's a guy wearing a dress, and I'm actually thinking about how much this is going to cost me. I'm not concerned, and I guarantee that person behind me is not thinking about being oppressed. They're thinking the same thing I am. How am
Yeah.
I going to pay for this?
Yeah.
And that's why the left was this administration and the one that she tried to have for herself. The public was not feeling their messaging. All
Yeah.
they heard was censorship, censorship,
And then they want
and
to
abortion rights, but you have no plan for abortion rights.
yeah.
You can't articulate it.
Mhm.
Trump articulated why he did what he did.
Mhm.
I might not agree with it, but he could talk about it,
Yeah.
you know? And
And wanting to send it back to the states, which makes it better because it's on your local
exactly.
that gets back more to your closer to your community,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know. So
And it's such a weird argument, especially the abortion one, knowing that they've run on that issue for 40 plus years.
oh
And
yeah, it's been a long
if you
time.
can find the videos of all the mashups of every campaign promise on either side and understand like they have no intention of doing it, but they're going to run on it,
Yeah.
you know? But here you have Trump got in office. He did it.
He actually did
He
it.
did
Yeah.
it. He
Yeah.
stacked the courts.
It it didn't just
Said he
get
was going to do it and he did it.
yeah.
And that's what's so insane to me about the Democratic Party is they're willing to continue voting for these people knowing that they're not doing anything.
Mhm.
We're going to bring awareness. We're just going to bring awareness. We're not going to actually do anything. We're just going to bring awareness.
Yeah.
You know.
And nothing will ever get done.
But as the working class has felt the brunt of this, I think that's ultimately what shifted everything. Like you can't just go to college and get a good job anymore.
Right.
And no one's going to trade schools. No one's learning trades.
Mm.
Like it's interesting. Like what I mean, I don't necessarily worry about it, but I do have concerns about when my kids are 18, what's going to be there for them,
Mm-hmm.
And that's why it's important for us to like, at least they have a home.
Yeah.
Like I don't expect for them to move out or be
Yeah.
able to, honestly,
Yeah, I'd honestly like to be able to build them a house right out
Yeah.
here,
I
like
mean,
a
I
little
want them to move out, but
yeah, a little studio apartment type thing or
yeah,
whatever.
but yeah,
But
to go build your own life.
yeah,
But then what's that going to look like down the road?
yeah,
It's everything is, we sacrifice so much for advancements in technology.
mm-hmm.
Like everything is in our phone. We put so much of our private lives in our phone, and you know exactly what happens when you don't have your phone. You can't find it, or you almost lose it, or you break it.
Mm-hmm.
It's that's a fear that I never thought I'd have.
Yeah.
It's
The one of the biggest is like, oh, my pictures of Nash or whatever. So I always try to remember to back them up or whatever.
which I need to do. I'm guilty of it.
Yeah.
It's like,
Um,
but
or the remembering phone numbers. Like, remember when you were a kid and you could
yeah,
go
my wife and I were
remember.
talking about that the other day. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's like,
You
can you
could go
imagine?
dial a phone number right away, but now half time I have to stop and think when they ask you for your own phone
Yeah,
number.
or a social security number.
Yeah.
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 I don't know. I feel fortunate that I grew up in a time before computers, honestly.
Yep.
Because I think a lot of people just don't understand how things get done, how things are made. Like Like you build an airplane for a rich guy, he has no idea what a 632 screw is.
Yeah.
You know,
Mm-hmm.
that level, um, and maybe you know. Oh, the other thing is, you look at other societies that have experienced massive famines and war, like real war, and you know, Russia, China, Germany, they've all had experiences with cannibalism.
Mm.
Americans don't understand that.
No.
We have never faced anything on that level, not a thing. And you know, I think globally we're being pushed away because we are the world's largest terror organization, and I think the world's sick of it. Like I said,
Yeah.
they live streamed a genocide for a year. Everybody saw that, and people are tired of it.
Yeah.
You know, and it's like, as a species, what have we really learned? How is it that that kind of thing can still go on to that level unchecked?
Yeah.
You know,
Mm-hmm.
it's like, are we really good?
That goes back to what I said earlier about like we have this thing for all the greatest purposes,
Uh
right?
huh.
Or it could
Uh huh.
be used for the greatest things ever, right? But no, it's
No.
it's dancing on short clips
Yeah.
or
Pornography.
yeah,
Yeah. It's
war. You
yeah.
know yeah, seeing people die in war or something like that.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah. That's,
is
you know, when I went to New Zealand, one of the things I wanted to ask people was how they viewed America. And one of the guys I talked to, he articulated it very well. In New Zealand, like, hunting's big. People hunt. And he said, you know, it's like, we just don't understand your fascination with guns. And I was like, man, it's true. Like, a lot of our, like, you know, like, we love Clint Eastwood movies and Dirty Harry and Die Hard and like all these, you know, war movies glorifying World War II. People in Europe aren't glorifying World War II like that.
no,
No, they make movies to make sure that doesn't happen again.
yeah,
We can't even talk about slavery.
ever
No,
or yeah. That is a
you
good
know,
point.
it's like if you,
There's been very far and few
yeah, if you
between.
look at a history book in our country, man, we sure are some good guys. One every time.
So my first ever episode with this whole new thing was Dow.
Uh-huh.
Did you? I don't know if you saw it. Native American, indi- indigenous
Yeah,
people.
yeah, I watched it.
I asked him how they like to be, because I've heard Native American. Some of them don't like that.
Yeah, yeah,
So indigenous people or whatever,
yeah.
Um, I'm still trying to learn that one, but anyway, it's because I really
I remember you
agree.
asking that.
Yeah, I really agree with their history is not taught correct at all. At all. That's why I had him on, like, and he
Yeah.
was willing to come here and
Oh, it
talk
could have
about
been a
it.
lot longer too.
Oh, it could have,
Yeah.
yeah. But he actually works for the local school district,
Hmm.
and so that's why I was surprised. But at the same time, I was like, yeah, they ain't gonna say nothing
No.
if you know, because I guess they're a minority,
Yeah.
but what he's doing is a great thing,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
working with native youth to help them because they have the lowest graduation rate
Yeah.
to get them through school,
Yeah.
and, you know kind
Yeah.
of be there for them or whatever,
Yeah.
mentor.
Yeah.
um so yeah, what he's doing is awesome, and he's also, I think, the chair at that, is it the Mid-American
Um, I don't know.
Cultural Center or something. I'll have to look again.
Yeah.
But
No.
he's like the chair of that
Yeah.
too. So he's pretty big within the community
Yeah.
of all that. But yeah, it's so, there's always movies about cowboys and Indians, but the
Yeah.
cowboys coming out on top,
Yeah.
and
Yeah. Yeah.
everything like that.
Yeah. That was. I mean, we watched Dancing with the Wolves a while back, and I don't know. I thought that was pretty good,
Hmm.
but it's still an Americanized viewpoint of that whole situation. Like I love history. I love listening to podcasts about history and movies um, that show it from a more human perspective. But it's still it's not taught. Like the whole Columbus thing. Like nobody knows that when he went back home, they stripped him of everything because how brutal he was.
Yeah.
But we still celebrate that. Like and it's like when we go into a church, or if somebody has a necklace on, it's still Jesus on the cross. But I thought he risen.
Yeah.
Why do you still portray him on the cross? It's just it's like this fascination with death, and I don't know where we got it from. Because if you read about why the pilgrims came here to avoid religious persecution, but then you just did it.
Yeah.
You know, it's like this as a race of people. I wonder why. And not every culture is like this, but American culture is very violent.
Yeah.
It's very violent.
It is. Yeah.
And it goes back to the terminology, the war on drugs, fighting cancer, like all those things are all talked about like in violent terms,
Right.
you know? Like
The.
I beat cancer. I thought you just got healthy.
Hmm. Yeah.
And I think a large part of our culture too is just downright negativity,
It is.
It's like that's like when they took away on YouTube, like you can thumbs down a video, but it doesn't show up.
I see it on my side.
Yeah, you see it,
Yeah.
and that's interesting.
Yeah.
Like, and yeah, I don't know. I think well, maybe it's because we are constantly trying to control a narrative.
Hmm.
You know, maybe that's and the only way to do that is by being an authority figure. And that authority, it's sometimes like uh I think it was Carlin maybe said it, but authority only knows violence,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
Like we don't spank our kids, but sometimes I feel I have to and I don't know why,
Yeah.
you know? And it's like it seems like, well, that's going to be the easiest way to get them to conform to what I want, but also I could just talk to them and create an environment where they don't do that again.
Right.
And that goes also back to like people's environments are becoming destitute. Like that John Deere factory left that town, decimated it. What are those people going to do?
Yeah.
They all can't work at Dollar General.
I always wonder about that. Like, what's Wichita is going to be the next Detroit if, because in the new Boeing contract, they wanted the next new
Yeah,
plane fully built in
yeah,
Washington. And if they end that 737, dude, Wichita is done.
yeah,
That is a massive
yeah.
blow to the
Yeah,
economy.
I never thought about it being the new Detroit. You know,
Yeah. I mean, we got private here,
yeah,
but it's not on the level
yeah.
that that one
Coke,
plane
yeah,
is.
Coke is not going to keep this town alive.
Yeah. And how many people? I know there's people, a lot of people that work there, but how many people do you honestly hear? I mean,
Yeah,
we know of one person that worked there, but
yeah. Well, I mean, I think that's the whole reason Andover was created. People didn't want to live in Wichita.
yeah,
They wanted their own place,
yeah.
and they got Andover. Because I remember when that city started coming up.
When it was, yeah, it was just a, everybody remembers it as a trailer park, but there was more to
Uh
it
huh.
from the 91 tornado.
Yeah.
But yeah, it grew
Yeah.
big
Fast.
time.
It grew
Yeah.
really fast.
Yeah, it did.
Yeah.
Now they got 2 high schools, 2 middle schools, I believe.
Yeah. I mean,
So,
yeah. It's. I mean, the whole situation with the media is reporting, as far as mainstream media, is reporting the news that they want you to believe and hear.
mm,
And it's not a true representation of what's going on in society. Like when that hurricane hit Florida last year, they were showing images of all the boats that were destroyed. And it's like, yeah, okay, people who can afford boats, I don't think we're going to feel sorry for them as much as we are for the people that actually lost everything.
Yeah.
you know? And the people that lived there because they worked there, those people with the boats, they might have a summer home there, you know? Some of them
Yeah.
probably live there, but you know what I mean? It's like
They're not
the
fully
media,
affected.
yeah, the media
Yeah.
chose to show you that class of people and
Yeah.
not, that's why they won't tell you about East Palestine or Lahaina or Flint. Because it ultimately comes down to a class issue,
Yeah.
you know? If it's a pay to play system, if you have enough money, you get to play. You know, it's like the whole college thing. If you have enough money to go to college, well, we're going to take care of you. If you don't, well, you better learn a trade or, you know.
Yeah.
And the world is, you know, the world is not run by lawyers and doctors and nurses. I mean, those people definitely matter,
Hmm.
you know, but you know, it takes a community of people doing it together because the doctors need people who know how to build homes, and the people who build homes sometimes need a doctor. And that divide between us is just getting bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. And it is a class issue, you know.
I hope it does start coming back around though. Like
Maybe it needs to collapse.
I have hope, but it's also because when you go search for something specifically, it'll give it to you, and then you
Yeah,
can find something that you want to hear,
yeah,
and
yeah,
but whether it's something that's broadly happening, I don't know.
yeah. Well,
But
like what's going on in California,
yeah,
the mass exodus of people leaving because the state's destroyed.
yeah,
Like, why did they do that?
and then go like there was a thing about how Texas is going blue,
Mm-hmm.
like starting to work. When actually, I think Trump won it by the biggest margin in quite a
Well,
while.
maybe it's not
But
that it went blue, but maybe it was all driven on policy. Maybe what
yeah,
happened is people didn't vote party lines; they voted on policy.
yeah.
You know,
Well,
it,
that's the thing. If they're voting for those policies in California and then go do it again somewhere else,
yeah,
Rogan makes a good point about that. He left because he
yeah,
didn't like it, but he's, you know,
yeah. It's yeah. That whole situation in California is kind of intimidating because like it's just like the policies that keep getting passed there. I don't understand like because I think California like the large rural areas in California are very red
yes,
and you know there is farmland there. There is like a lot of that stuff there. A lot of industry that is blue collar, and I don't understand like how they're getting away with what they're doing there, policy wise. Like what? It's it it's obviously benefit working for someone there, so they're going to vote that way every time
hmm,
because it works for them. But you know the stories in like in San Francisco of all those businesses like hootie tootie places closing because everybody's scared to go down there because they're going to get robbed and they're going to see homeless people and they're going to see things that, you know, nobody wants to go there and see a dude pooping on the sidewalk, you know?
and the police can't do
Yeah,
anything.
you go to Walgreens and everything's locked up, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, they're doing that in Lawrence. I go to the hardware store, everything I got to go find somebody to get a router bit.
So Walmart's like that.
Is it here?
Yeah. Razors. You got to go get somebody
Think
to
about
get
that.
razors.
People are stealing necessities,
Yeah.
but the beer is not locked up. No, we can't have you stealing soap. Come on now. That sends a
I don't know if
but think about
the body was.
think about the message that sends to the public.
I never thought about it that way, but yeah, a necessities. Like, I mean, yeah,
That's what
the electric
that's
toothbrushes.
what they care
That's
about.
probably it. You don't need an electric toothbrush,
No,
but
but they're locking up the stuff that you need to do self-care,
yeah,
but not the booze, not the candy, not the ho-hos,
yeah,
you know? It's like
the bike tubes
yeah,
and
that
things like
sends a
that.
even if you're not you can't figure that out in your head. You still know how it made you feel to see that stuff locked up. Like, wow, I can't get shampoo. Really?
Yeah,
I gotta. Yeah. It's yeah.
that one is. that one's not. There's differences.
Yeah, yeah, because
And
who lives over there and who lives over there. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah.
yeah.
Um,
I told that kid at Ace, I was like, why don't you just lock the door, dude?
have a front window that you go up to and
Yeah.
be like, I need this and this and this.
Hmm.
And they go get it. Yeah.
Yeah. And he wasn't happy about it either,
Yeah.
It's like, it's like what I do, like time is money, literally.
Yeah.
If you're going to make me wait an extra 15 minutes to find somebody to get, a table saw blade or something, like, you know, there's no efficiency in this at all.
No.
But maybe it's not supposed to be efficient. I mean, that in industry that you work in.
Yeah. Time is,
Everything is
yeah.
like, why does a screw cost this much here, but I can go buy it at the hardware store for a fraction of that?
Yeah.
Because I did get to see what some of that stuff costs. It's ridiculous.
Oh, so my first job ever at a bike shop, we had a contract with them and with Boeing at the time when it was Boeing.
Uh-huh.
Oh, dude. Yeah,
The
you come in
markup.
and buy that tube from us, $4.
Uh-huh.
We sold it to Boeing for $8, the exact same tube.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah. 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 No, I think people are starting to wake up, and just because of the hardship, it's forcing them to,
yeah,
and it's I don't know where the tipping point is, because I still see people at the grocery store in line for self checkout while the registers are just sitting there, like there's just somebody there waiting to check someone out,
yeah,
and they're staring straight ahead. They got their headphones in, and it's like sheeples. I mean, sheeple's a real thing. I thought that was just a stupid joke back in the day, but it's a real thing,
yeah,
and maybe that shows just either a level of comfortableness that everybody's under because they have the illusion that everything's okay because they voted the right way,
mm-hmm,
and it's just it's not working anymore.
mm-hmm.
It's like you're hungry and you look at images on your phone of food and then convince yourself that you're full. I think that's what's happening.
Yeah,
Like, oh, I can't afford to go to the doctor, so I'm gonna drink. So I mean that's
yeah,
yeah, but like like back in the day, my teeth would hurt, and so I knew if I drank whiskey, it didn't hurt
yeah,
because I couldn't afford braces. A lot of people are doing that.
yeah,
That's that homeless person looking to get that fix because that's the only fix they can get. No one's helping them. They
yeah.
just tore down another homeless camp in Lawrence, and the people are just standing there. All their stuff went in a dumpster.
Yeah,
What are they supposed to do?
right.
That's not helping anybody.
And that goes back to what I was saying earlier, like when I was watching Tommy G and he, went into the African American community saying that they're pissed off
Yeah.
because they're doing so much for illegals, putting them in hotels, getting them, gift cards and
Yeah.
credit cards and
Well, I
what.
don't know if this is true, but they said half the FEMA money was just disappeared because of that.
Yeah,
That's why it ran out so fast.
yeah, but they're
Americans.
born and raised
Yeah.
Americans here, and they're
Yeah.
and they're still in
Yeah.
poverty big
So
time. And
so I listened to a lot of different viewpoints. I mostly get on YouTube. But I'd say like the conservative viewpoint, I mostly watch African American channels
hmm
to get the actual conservative viewpoint.
yeah,
Because it's interesting, like who decides what they are. And, I grew up in a time with Rush Limbaugh.
mm,
And I remember the rhetoric, because my dad had it playing all the time. It's like being a kid, it's like, this guy sounds hateful. And I say, well, I'm never going to be a Republican because he sounds like he hates everybody.
mm,
Not racist, but everybody. He hates everybody. And it's like that. And for me growing up as a kid, I assumed that's what conservatives were. And well, I didn't think I was a liberal or anything like that either, but I just knew I didn't want to be that.
yeah,
And to be now older and have life experiences and like, That's interesting. What makes someone who's not white, black or a Mexican or anything, be conservative, because I knew a lot of Mexican people who were upset about the border because they came here illegally. They went through the proper channels, and and they don't want to see services go to people that are not doing it the way they did,
Yeah.
and the whole immigration thing is I think a part of that that's not being discussed is it's not really Mexicans. It's everyone from countries that we have actively bombed, sanctioned, um, overthrew their governments. It's a lot of South America, a lot of Muslims. Um, it's our foreign policy is what's driving this,
Mm-hmm.
and other countries are not willing to participate in it, and that's why they're coming here. And Europe is under the same attack, I think, right now.
Yeah.
And it's like, I think that's a part of the discussion that's never talked about is why, and yeah, I think it's honestly due a large part to our foreign policy, how we decide, um, Elon Musk, he wants this mineral and they have it in Venezuela. So now we're going after Venezuela. Or Monsanto would like to have their product in Europe, but they're not into GMO. So let's destroy Ukraine and give it to them, which
Is
is
it?
what happened.
Is that what? Oh, okay.
It's corporate capture.
Yeah.
That's who owns Ukraine now. It's Monsanto, J.P. Morgan, Vanguard, BlackRock. That's who's
For funding the war.
well. I mean, that's what
Well, I mean, we're
imperial.
funding the
Yeah,
war,
that's what
but
imperialistic nations do,
yeah.
and we're sold. It's like I don't think it's that hard to figure this stuff out if you really want to know why we're doing what we're doing. Like, I think people need to understand who Victoria Nuland is, who John Bolton is. All these people, that's what they do. They just go around and overthrow governments. That's what NATO does. Why is Africa's the richest nation in the world? We still haven't figured out why it's not working. Oh, wonder why. What when has NATO ever fixed anything? They don't make anything better. Like, tell me a story where NATO went in somewhere and it's all better now.
Like,
Yeah, it's
can't
it's
think of one right
it's
off.
government funded terrorism.
Yeah.
And you have all these nations in Africa that are ruled by ruthless dictators, and they have more resources in Africa than anywhere else. Why are those people in power every time? And like, it's just, and I think that's a large part of why the people or other countries are trying to move away from the dollar, because they've seen that all that it has done is controlled them,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and so, but it also scares me about this crypto thing. Like, I don't understand it very well, but I know you need a shit ton of electricity to create it.
Yeah, a lot.
And where is that going to come from?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like, I've seen images of those machines that create crypto, and like, that doesn't make any sense to me.
Yeah, and I've seen the thing where arguments for liberals about like why does the right hate electric vehicles so much, which is kind of generalizing because not a lot.
Yeah.
I mean, some like it. It's more of a realistic thing, Why do they hate electric cars, but like Elon?
Yeah.
It's more of a not every we can't have an electric car mandate by a certain date.
No,
That
we
it's
don't have
not
the
realistic.
infrastructure.
We don't have the
Yeah.
infrastructure.
But we can't talk about that either.
Yeah.
It's like, it's this cause and effect where we're never allowed to talk about the cause.
Mm-hmm.
Well, how did you get cancer? Well, part, like there's a whole host of reasons. It's genetic. Well, did you make bad life decisions?
Yeah.
How did you get pregnant? I made a terrible decision, like, and not in a sense of blaming people, but it's like what we talked about history. We need to understand our history as a culture,
Yeah.
like how we got here. It's like the civil rights movement, like, and everything that surrounds that. But no, we want to talk about how Martin Luther King had orgies. Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
Like RFK, like he's talking about health and all this, like, he left a bear in the park, or it's like, yeah, he's a dude.
Yeah.
Dudes do stuff like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Some people are, yeah, it's like, even if Martin Luther King did that, how does that affect you personally?
Right.
There's a bigger message out there.
Yeah.
And I think as a culture, and not, because that's what we need to understand. Like, this is our culture, whether you're left or right, gay, trans, black, whatever, immigrant, this is our culture, and we need to have it, talk about it. Like, why, like, I saw something the other day and I never thought about this. If there's a health food section in the grocery store, what does that mean for the rest of the store?
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I know, because
Yeah.
like people see you go to that section of the store and they assume, oh, you're one of those.
Yeah. Yep.
Like, one of what? It's like, well, then what does that make you? What are you supporting?
Yeah.
But we can't have that conversation.
That's pretty funny.
Yeah, I'd never thought of it like that. It's like, yeah, that kind of, yeah.
Yeah. Or
But like, I know, like, if I eat this way, I feel this way.
Yeah.
If I have too many beers, I know how I'm going to feel. But then I also know, well, why did you drink that many beers? Maybe I felt like shit. I was in a bad mood, or I was with my friends and we were having fun and we just wasn't paid. Like, when I was younger, I'd have a hangover and I'd punish myself. Like, I feel guilty.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, that's the cost for all that fun you had last night.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. But it's like, I know that I like cheesecake, and that's why I don't buy cheesecake.
I know I'm gonna feel like shit later.
Yeah. Yeah. And I don't think I honestly don't think most people have that level of conversation in their head to where they're just acting on instinct.
Yeah.
But then where do those instincts come from? Like I there's like all the things that I learned about myself in therapy, which were useful. But when I got on social media, like on Instagram, and I know this is a joke and it is true, but it's funny. Like, a lot of people discovered they had ADHD from social media.
Yeah.
And it's weird how I'm not even going to begin to wrap my brain around how algorithms actually work, but the thing does learn you. It learns your behaviors. It learns what makes you.
It absolutely does.
And that's why it started sending me things, because I was clicking on, or pausing, and then like, it made me cry.
Yeah.
Because I realized, like, all the hardships that I'd had in life, if I had understood that part about myself, then maybe they wouldn't have been so hard.
Yeah.
Because like, my favorite comic is Doug Stanhope, and he has a bit about you work with your problems. And I heard him say that like 10, 15 years ago. That single quote changed my life.
That was a good one.
Because I was actively every day, to an exhausting extent, thinking I needed to fix myself.
Yeah.
Like, I started going to the gym, and you're the same way.
Yeah.
If you're going to get into something, you go to 10 with it.
Yeah.
And I remember when I got into cycling, it was like I had to do it. And it got to a point where I didn't enjoy it anymore.
Yeah.
And then one day I did a century, it's 100 miles.
Oh, shit.
And I never picked the bike up again.
Damn.
Because it was like, well, what's left to do?
I
You
might
know?
have to take a pee
All
break real quick.
right.
No, I'm remember that cycle right
All
there.
right.
Because I remember when you were doing that.
Yeah. No, no, like, I was always so hard on myself and, was always actively like, okay, this is going to fix me. This is going to fix me. Like I was broken,
Mm-hmm.
and that's a very exhausting life. Like I said, when I was young, and I still struggle with anxiety, but I'm better at recognizing it before
Yeah,
it gets out of overwhelming. But
I'm not.
I don't, I think back, like my wife was like, I wish we'd have met sooner. It's like, no, that was a psycho.
Yeah.
You didn't want to be with that guy. I ruined every relationship, every single one of them. And just so intense. And I think that's why drinking was such a thing for me, is because it it was shut me down. It's the only thing that could shut me off,
Yeah.
you know? And, then after I got divorced, I was hanging out with Charlie and he's like, come on, man, I'm going to get you high. Because I'd tried pot before and I didn't like it, which was weird because I got into pills real bad too. Like I, when I discovered, so it's classic. I got hurt, went to the doctor, gave me Lortabs, and I was like, ooh, I feel good. Well, what if I take 2 and 3,
Yeah.
and then I discovered Xanax, and that was a game changer because it made me feel normal. I had no idea what it was. It's an
Yeah.
anti-anxiety medication.
Right.
But if I took it, I felt normal,
Mm-hmm.
or what I thought normal was. Uh, and then I heard that quote, and it's like, I'm not a bad person. I just do unhealthy things. And when it said to work with your problems, I mean, I thought a lot about it. I was like, you're really good at this stuff, but you're not at that. So maybe quit doing that, And like I had a tendency to date women that I thought it was my job to fix,
Oh, okay.
you know?
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, no, if you're not going to accept them the way they are, you shouldn't be with them. It's not your job to fix people. And, but, it goes back to my childhood. Like, I mean, to be honest, my parents are very narcissistic. And that puts a lot of pressure on a child to be something, to do something, to take care of things that are not your responsibility, you know? And, uh, yeah, I slowly started looking at every part of my life and what works, what doesn't work. And the stuff that didn't work, let it go. Stuff that works, nurture it, And like if you have a garden, you can spend the whole time picking weeds, and then what happens to the food, you know?
Yeah.
You got to do some of the weeds aren't bad. It's like I love his stand up, especially his early stuff, because he cracked jokes in such a way that made you feel like you're going to be all right.
Who's this?
Doug Stanhope.
Oh, okay. Yeah. The one you
And,
mentioned. Okay.
it's like, he has a great bit about, pharmaceuticals and, like they push them on me all the time, but,
Yeah.
it's like, and I knew why I liked that stuff because it shut my brain off. It made it, but it wasn't healthy.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't very bad, like, and when he got me high after going through that terrible experience, it was different. Like, it was like one of the first times I actually felt good and I didn't have to worry about anything. And it shut down the 10 conversations in my head down to 3. Cause I don't know if you're like this too, but it's probably what made me good at chess. Like, if I'm in a crowded room, I hear everybody's conversation. And in my head, I'm having it with them too. Like, and it's exhausting. And that's why I have a hard time in crowds. Like, it gets overwhelming. Like, I have a hard time with like loud, abrupt noises, like children, and
You have 2.
I know, and it sounds like 8, but like marijuana has been very helpful for me in dealing with things that I can't change.
Yeah.
It's made me more accepting. Like, I know if I get home and go take a couple hits, I'm a more patient father. Like, I can relax. I don't feel like I got to fix everything, you know?
Yeah.
And, uh, it helps me with sleep, which is like been a huge thing for me my whole life. Like, I average 4 hours every night.
That's
That's,
about where
that's
I'm
my
at.
best.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so I got to be careful when I go to bed because otherwise I'm waking up at 1:30 or 2:30.
Dude, and I hurt so bad if I actually sleep longer.
Yeah.
Like 8 o'clock. I'll
Uh-huh.
wake up and
Stiff.
like
Yeah.
I got injured sleeping.
hmm No, I get it. Yeah. Yeah. So like I think, we're so easily diagnosable. If
Mm,
something doesn't go right, well, you have a problem, and here you can take this, and this, and this, whether it's a pharmaceutical or yoga, because I just overdo everything. I did yoga to the point where I hurt myself. I cycled to the point I hurt myself. I lifted weights to the point I hurt myself, and having that understanding now of knowing, hey, this is enough. You
yeah.
don't need to do this again. Like I got into drinking real bad a couple years ago, real bad, and it was not good. It was scary being that physically dependent on something, and having lost friends over it
Yeah.
to people who have died from it. It's like, people don't always take the time to actually listen to what people are going through, you know, and, because it doesn't matter if you're some rich kid in California or some poor kid inside New Orleans. We're all we're all looking for the same thing. We want to be happy, and sometimes we're not given the the voice to express ourselves. Like maybe you have parents that you're going to be a doctor, or you have parents that are, you know, today you want to learn guitar, tomorrow you want to learn. It's like it's whatever, and like I think I'm a much better person if I am conducive, or if I'm taking care of myself that in a certain way, like I lost my belief in God, and I tried really hard not to. And I explored every religion and tried to find something that I could connect to. And it just wasn't there. And the only reason I liked Buddhism is because in Buddhism, you have to eventually let that go too. And that meant something to me because I, and maybe this is because moving around a lot, and you only take what fits in the car. So I've kind of become a minimalist in a certain regard. And the less I have, the more freedom I feel. And I knew that when I was religious, I had a tendency to close certain things off in my life that maybe I shouldn't have, like being judgmental and looking down on other people because I felt some moral superiority. And um,
Well, really, I mean, though,
at least
that's
the
one
brand of
of.
religion that I was brought up in.
Okay.
Yeah, because I knew religious,
What, do you
whatever
mind me
my dad
asking?
made up that day.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we didn't go to a church because he wanted to be,
Okay.
yeah. Um, I knew some great, great people who are religious, but not religious in the sense of uh, promoting a certain religion, but just inherently good people. And I come to understand that my God is my intuition, and the only time that my intuition can be listened to is if I'm taking care of myself, mind, body, everything. You know, and I'm gonna tell you, that divorce was seriously traumatizing. I experienced
No,
some
I
that
remember.
marriage and divorce. I experienced some very, very powerful negative experiences, and it was life changing. And I got into psychedelics, and which was massively transform transform me. I was able to let so many things go that I didn't know were in there. And the trajectory of my life after those experiences, like I don't think, I wouldn't have kids and the life I have now if I had not gone through those experiences, because they forced me to see the reality of what I really was and not look down on it. Know that there's something salvageable here, you know? And, for someone like me to have the childhood that I had, and then the experiences, like, by all rights, someone like me should never have had the opportunities and things that I did. Like, I told the Saudi Arabian prince no on the phone. He wanted a certain thing on his plane. I said, I can't do that. And it's like,
Yeah.
this fucking dumb, poor brown kid with crooked teeth on the phone with a Saudi Arabian prince,
Yeah.
telling him no. And just the other, like, just, but I also think about like all the BMX road trips and stuff like that. Like all that meant, like, I didn't understand at that time what that was doing to me, but opening up myself to all these experiences and being that kid that didn't have a voice in his own home, had to be quiet, had to, I got ripped for an hour and a half because he didn't like the way I walked across the room. I got told I was stupid all the time, and then trying to like be an adult in the world with that burden of never being good enough, you know. And that's what the psychedelics did for me. Like, it was like, it was scary, but it was not painful. It was not, I mean, maybe the scary part was like, what they call ego death.
Mm-hmm.
But I had experience where I saw the beginning of the world and the end of the world, and it was the same thing. I had the experience in the park where everyone was beautiful. Everything was love.
It'd
It
be
was,
nice if we could get to that,
it
man.
was, I mean, it literally changed my life
Yeah. And why it's not legal, I'll never know.
because it works
Because it works. Because it's
and it's
not a
free.
far. Because it's like when I'm on an anxiety medicine right
Mm-hmm.
now that
Yeah.
makes me feel stupid. Like,
Mm-hmm.
honestly. Like, sometimes I have like a little stuttering problem now when I try to talk.
Yeah. I
And I
mean,
swear it's because of that crap.
and I still, I mean, I twitch if I get
Yeah.
overwhelmed. I mean, my wife can't stand it, and but I knew how I felt when I was on those pills,
Mm-hmm.
and it felt good, but it wasn't real.
I don't know that I
It
feel any
wasn't
better,
real.
honestly.
Yeah.
I feel stupid.
Well,
Like, I
I'll send
forget a
you. I'll
lot of
send you
things.
a link to that bit he does, because he covers all that stuff.
Yeah.
And he talks about how those are the things that make you interesting.
Mm.
Do you really want to be the person, like I said, with the name badge where your number's bigger than your name? Everybody's wearing the same uniform, and you're just pulling levers and pushing buttons, and everybody did a great job, so we get pizza this week. You know,
The old pizza party.
like I value the uniqueness of an individual, and I got to say, like, when I met my wife and got to meet all her close friends, every one of them's a unique individual. They're all different, and they're just like every single one of them. I have no problem leaving my kids with them. They love our kids like we do, and I feel like I'm in a community. Like, I remember when that whole saying, like, it takes a village, came out and everybody got upset. And I was like, it kind of does.
Yeah.
It kind of does. Like, I know people are watching my kids on the sidewalk, and the teachers, they have love at school, they have friends, uh, and because the ages are all mingled together. My kids have friends that are 5 years older than them, and they hug each other when they leave, you know, and it's like it's just, and I don't try to question it too hard, but it does baffle me, like, from where I come from, and here I am, and the amount of effort and work it took to get there. But it wasn't because someone, that's what makes it hard to ask for help, is because a lot of times I feel like I did it on my own, but I didn't. I had people in my life that mattered. I just didn't see it, you know? Like when I first started that job, I Hardy says I worked with him. I don't remember. And then I got moved to a different place and we never talked. We had no reason to talk. And then I'd had that experience. Um, something, I don't remember what it was. It was just different. And it's like we saw each other finally. And then we were able to be friends and we became really close friends. He's been like a father figure to me, you know? But a lot of those guys there were, because they were the only fathers I actually had. They grew me up. They were mean sometimes, but I learned more from them than I did with my dad,
Yeah.
you know? And because I always felt like I was 10 years behind everybody. Like what, you know, because I I didn't get to go. I didn't have friends. I didn't have friends. Like Dave was my first friend. That's how messed up it was. Like you move, you lose all your friends. And then if I brought a friend home, it's got an evil spirit in him,
Yeah.
you know? And so it's like, you know, like Dave, Travis, and all those guys, like those were my first friends. Like Charlie and Noth threw my first birthday party. I was like
Oh, okay.
23, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Crazy how much more Charlie settled down too.
Yeah. I don't know. He doesn't talk to me anymore, but, no, it's just always been like, once I just quit trying to fix myself, my life got a whole lot easier. You know, even going to therapy, she's like, I've never seen someone make this level of transformation in that amount of time. I was like, yeah, I don't want to be like that no more.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever it is that led me into that path, I don't want to do that no more, you know? And I did everything. I did the therapy, the mushrooms, everything. Like just because I'd seen enough to know, like, if you really want to heal, that's not a bad way to do it. I mean, other people don't need it, and that's good for them, you know. But you know, it's just I knew, like when I met my wife, I'd just reserved that my life to the fact that I was going to be alone. That was it. It's just that's it. I'm just going to be alone. And I don't know if you knew this, but I was growing a lot of pot in my basement. Yeah, nobody knew. And when you do
Probably a
something,
better way to do it, I
yeah,
guess.
yeah, and when you do stuff like that, you can't have people come over.
Yeah.
Only 5 people knew, and only 3 people saw it.
Yeah.
But the reason I did it was I started smoking it, and you know how we are. Why would I pay for something? I'll just do it myself. And then it got out of hand. But the one thing was I was at a friend's house, and he had a show, and this girl showed up who had epilepsy. She had 2 canes, and they had to help her through the door. She had to have help throughout the house. And someone told me she wants to smoke. So I had some on me. I took her in the garage with some other people. We smoked. Within an hour, she didn't need the canes anymore, and she went up and down the stairs to the basement without assistance.
Yeah.
That was another life-changing experience
Yeah.
because
Seeing it work firsthand.
I didn't understand. It's like watching a miracle.
Yeah.
And so I started growing plants for certain people. Like whatever they needed, I would grow it, and that's how I justified it in my head for, you know, So that's what I was doing when I met my wife. It was just how that all lined up. It was so interesting, because I came up to Lawrence to watch the dorm get imploded, and a friend of mine talked me into staying for it was Thanksgiving, and she was having Friendsgiving at her house, and this pulse of electricity went up my spine. I was like, I need to figure out what this means. And I go to her house and realize we know all the same people. So there's no way we haven't been in the same room at the same time at some point. And her house was like a girl version of mine. And it was just the way it all played out was just like, it just felt natural, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just, you know, and here we are.
Yeah.
You know, it's just like, and that's where it goes back to like, quit forcing things. Like, you don't have to fix everything. People are more interesting with their flaws and their quirks and their all their little bullshit. Yeah, maybe it sucks in the car on a road trip, but you know, it's fun around a campfire.
Yeah.
You know, and you know, it's like I asked her one time, you know, if do you feel like you're creating the environment for the guy that you want to be with to show up? And that's what a friend does, you know.
Yeah.
Like, that's why you didn't belong at 521. That was not an environment you needed to be in. But it was what we needed at that time.
Right.
You know, like, I don't judge us for what we did necessarily. I mean, it sucked
No.
when we hurt somebody or whatever, you know, or destroy somebody's property, but we were angry men. We were all angry. We were all, one thing that we all had in common was daddy issues, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Na and I talk about that, you know. It's like we all have this thing where our dads just weren't there for us,
Okay.
you know. Some of us didn't have dads, and some of us had abusive dads or dads that just worked all the time. But it, we were just angry young men lashing out,
Yeah.
you know. And now, you know, especially now and I, we're at a point where we can talk about it, and you know, we can give each other that ear. You're like, yeah, I see you. You know?
Yeah.
And I think that's, you know, not to go back to politics, but I think the people need to understand, like, we all live here and we all have a responsibility to take care of this, whether it's the environment, the government, the school system, the health department, you know. And, you know, it's like we continually allow people to hold positions that they're grossly unqualified for. You know, Department of Transportation needs to be run by somebody who used to drive semis or a train conductor, someone who understands how the transportation works,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and the same in all those agencies. But it's whoever donated more money or whoever the industry feels is, you know, like,
Yeah.
like, like I want to see one day a political campaign where you have farmers and doctors and those kinds of people up there saying, hey, I think you should vote for this person. Not Oprah, not, you know, not these movie stars and pop stars,
Real people.
real people,
Yeah.
you know? Like, I saw another joke about, like, we should not be listening to Taylor Swift tell us who to pick when all her songs are about picking the wrong man.
That's a good point,
And
but
she's like 40 something years old, I think. She's in her 40s or late 30s. And it's like, she still sings those songs.
yeah,
You haven't learned anything, lady.
she's cashing the checks for
Yeah.
one. It rings true
Yeah.
with late teenagers
Yeah.
and
Yeah. I mean, I understand you're offering a product.
right.
Yeah. I don't got a problem with that. But stay in your lane.
Yeah.
I want to hear a heart surgeon talk about,
I don't care if she has her opinion,
yeah.
like really, but
I mean, if you're running for president, those are not the people you need on stage with you.
and it
You need
became
somebody
evident.
relatable,
Right.
you know?
Not somebody that doesn't touch their front
Yeah.
door.
Yeah. Yeah. And in that regard, like, I think if Americans can come together around that idea of, can we get the person who's most qualified in there, not the person who did what they were told, and so now it's their turn. You know, industry plants or whatever.
Yeah.
You know, you're a, you know, if you're a Raytheon person and then now you get to hold a position in military, uh, doing enacting policy. Like, no, that doesn't work for me. You're self-serving. You know,
Right.
yeah.
Yeah.
That's what was a big wake up call for me on Kamala was when Dick Cheney backed her. The biggest war criminal of my lifetime. Like,
and profited
what are
from
you
more.
telling people right now?
Yeah.
What do you, so here's another thing I thought of. Um, and I challenged a couple people to this is when you hear these people talk, whether it's Trump or Kamala or whoever, try an experiment. Turn the volume all the way down, turn the closed caption up, and read it out loud in your own voice, and then decide if it makes sense. Because that intuition in our brains, we ignore it too often, you know?
Right.
And it's like, I haven't tried it yet, but I want to do it just to see if it changes. Like, obviously I'm going to do it to somebody that I think I believe in, or, you know, that I think is right for the job. I want to find that and do it there, so it's more objective for me. But I think it would be an interesting experiment. Like, if you think that's really the person you want for that, try it. See if it still rings true in your own voice out loud. Like, I think it would change a lot of stuff, you know? Cuz you and I have both been next to somebody who's you're listening to is like, that's some bullshit, and they're like, yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Is it really what you're talking about? You know? Like, how are we watching and listening to the same thing and you hear something completely different than I do?
Yeah.
You know? It's not like, oh, I like their hamburgers, or I hate their hamburgers. It's not. I think this is more serious than that.
Yeah.
You know, it's like it's funny. Like, I run into people in Lawrence all the time. It's like, Spangles, that place sucks, and then they come to admit like you just don't like the aesthetic in there. I was like, yeah, it's a Wichita thing. It works in Wichita. It doesn't work in Lawrence.
Or the owners.
Yeah, the lisp and all that. Yeah.
The like I, I don't
But
know.
I mean, that's a perfect example too, because you can go there if you go to the right one, and it's great. But
Yeah.
then you can see what the Stevens actually do in this city, and be like, that's terrible.
Yeah.
Well, don't let them have them make the hamburgers. Quit letting them do this.
Yep.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and that's the same thing. All these people in politics. Like, I'm sorry, but you're just not. You're stay over there. If you want to be a military person and do all the bombs and everything, go do that. You don't need to be in our government.
Yeah, cuz like what do you think about okay, so Trump, somebody that is a billionaire, go ahead and he almost we've heard this story before too, but I'm going to go ahead and say it again. Like, dude almost got taken out
And they didn't talk about it.
twice,
I heard 3 times,
3 times.
and they
Yeah,
won't talk about it.
he don't need to do this. Like, what?
No, and
And
he doesn't
he's
talk about it either. You notice that?
yeah, and so there's kind of this thing about me like that he does actually have a love of country, but he just is not the greatest at.
Well, I mean, you can think about how I don't doubt that he loves America, but he doesn't have the life of most Americans.
Correct.
He loves America from where he's at,
Mhm.
you know? And so when I was talking to this kid a long time ago, we were in the airplane hangar, and he was very, very Christian, like to a fault. Like, he had closed his life off to so many things. Good kid, great kid, but he was so cut and dry, you know? And I think, I don't remember what was going on in the world, but he had an opinion about Muslims and uh, about, why that's not good to be a Muslim. And I was like, hey, do you see that? Look at the airplane. Okay, you see it from over here. But let's pretend that airplane's God. You're looking at God from right here. He's looking at God from over there. I think you're both looking at the same thing. You've just decided in your head that your view is correct and his view is not. And
Mhm.
that's confusing to me about people who identify with politics. It's like, you believe you're a good person, and you probably are, and you vote this way, so you think that's the way. and it's not how it works, you know.
Yeah.
And again, it goes back to it. It only gets better if people start communicating around it. You know, it's the the whole thing about Trump getting shot in the ear, and the media talked about it for one day, and then it never got brought up again. That's baffling to me.
Mm-hmm.
You have a presidential candidate that is backed by millions of Americans, and no one wants to explain to them why that happened, why that was allowed to happen, why it was allowed to go that far. And we all have the internet, we all know the details, and we can't get answers to the most. I mean, that's a big one. That's a big one.
Yeah.
And it just makes me wonder, like, there's so much stuff that we need to know that we don't. There's so much.
Scary amounts.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know about you, but like me, I'm not a billionaire. I'm not a 100,000-aire.
Yeah.
I get shot at running for president and even being broke. Hell no, I'm
Yeah.
out.
Exactly.
You know, like
Yeah.
not doing it.
Yeah, that was I mean, that photo is iconic.
Yeah.
It's iconic. Like, whether you like the man or not, what his reaction to that meant a lot to a lot of people.
Mm-hmm.
And
And to keep going and not drop out, even
yeah.
though you should have just
Yeah.
should have been dead on. Like he looked at the right time.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
Yeah. Yeah. That one. I mean, yeah. The whole backstory of that kid, and then the other two people that.
Just nothing on it, unless you start. You really have to dig. You cannot find anything about this.
Yeah, it's hard. I mean, I've found some stuff because of where I choose to get the news from. You know, people are, and that's the other thing. So they're willing to go that far to keep someone like him out of there. It doesn't. I have no doubt that they wouldn't do that to any one of us.
Yeah.
You know, like this whole election denier bullshit. Like, I think elections have been rigged since the day of time. There's always some amount of wrongdoing in elections because people can feel so strongly about something and justify it in their head and do horrible things, you know? And so for me to think that a group of people wouldn't band together to try to sway an election, like, yeah, of course, why wouldn't they? Why wouldn't they? You know, but I think it happens on both sides.
Yeah.
And I don't know how to fix it and make it more fair. But you know, that's something that we're going to have to figure out, because if this election was this wild, I don't know what it's going to be like in 4 years.
Hopefully, well, that's one of the things I was kind of hitting at earlier was like I feel like I was watching a thing because I've been trying to listen to their point of view. I just want to be done with it, but I'm curious, like, because I think the DNC is so corrupt, and not to say that the RNC probably isn't either.
They have their ways, yeah.
Yeah,
both sides have their ways.
But the DNC, for Bernie to not win when all I knew was people that wanted Bernie to win and the nominee in 2016.
Bernie, I don't even think Bernie wants to win. I think Bernie's there as a
pot stirrer.
Well, he's just what I see him doing every 4 years is like, well, when he ran for president, I liked him a lot. And what I liked was when someone would give him a platform to actually explain his policy, it made sense. But I think he's just a plant at this point. I think he's just there to bring people back to the Democratic side, you know, because he's been talking a lot of shit lately. It's like, where were you 4 or 5 months ago? You weren't saying this then. If you knew this was a problem, where were you 6 months ago?
Yeah.
Because that's what he did. He was, he got voters to follow him, and then at the last minute, he's, okay, I need you to vote for this person. He does it every time.
Yeah.
He has no interest in actually serving what he tells people that he's cooking,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and it's yeah, I don't believe him anything he says anymore.
Yeah, he's one of the vocal ones to. And it probably helps him keep getting reelected,
Uh-huh.
or
Yeah.
whatever like that. You know, um, completely different type of thing, but sometimes when you're loud and vocal, you'll get money.
Oh
People are
yeah.
going to donate to that,
Mm-hmm.
which is why I always said, people would always say they associated, uh, well, the Westboro Baptist Church,
Mm-hmm.
you know, they would say, oh, that's Christians or whatever, and it's not. They weren't.
No.
It's a family full of lawyers.
Yeah.
They're loudmouths. Somebody's gonna agree with,
Oh yeah.
even though
Yeah.
they don't agree with themselves, but they're loudmouths and they give donations, and they're a church,
Yeah.
and they're a family full of
Oh
lawyers.
yeah, they got it figured out.
Like,
Yeah. But I have to believe, like, when that family first started that movement, they probably were trying to actually do something they thought was right. And then it became corrupted because they got power and they got wealth and they got notoriety, all of which makes you do crazy shit.
yes,
You see that.
I mean they were headline news.
Yeah, yeah. Wherever they go, they grab a headline, and like. But I wonder, like personally, like, man, if tomorrow I woke up and I had $10 million, how good of a person would I be in a year?
Mm-hmm.
What would I do with it? Would I, what would it make me become? I did something nice for somebody, like maybe there was a family that needed help, and I helped them out with 10 grand, and then I got headline news. Well, that felt good.
Mm-hmm.
What can I do next? And then where do you think you end up after that? And it's just, yeah. I mean that kind of, and you don't even need the wealth part. If you're getting hits on, people are liking your videos as you're an influencer, well, you start doing more of the things that get you hits, and then where do you end up?
Yeah,
You know?
just yeah, it was just cashing the checks
Yeah.
basically. Yeah, so that's what. Okay, so I see that, but it's just so many people like Bernie rang so true with
Yeah.
them.
Oh
Like
yeah.
how people feel about Trump,
Uh-huh.
that they're like
Yeah.
that they're pissed off at constantly being told pronouns and
Uh-huh.
that the fact that bathrooms were ever an argument,
Yeah.
and
Yeah. We've lost some common sense in a lot of those arguments. It's
yeah,
just, and it's sad because um, I do feel we're smarter than that.
oh a lot,
You know, we as Americans have done some pretty cool shit.
but they want to just highlight what divides us,
Yeah.
um, rather than embracing differences, which is
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
because you know it's okay. So it's like when I met Tara and found out how much different we were
Yeah.
at a lot of things, and it was nice
Yeah.
to not have somebody that's like so.
A mirror. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
if everybody's
Yeah.
the same,
Like,
it's no
yeah,
fun.
my wife has definitely forced me to be more social and more outgoing, and uh, you know, do things that, you know, like camping.
Hmm.
I never camped.
Yeah,
And the first time we went camping, I didn't understand. I was agitated. I was frustrated. I was angry. And then she was getting angry with me. And I was like, and I figured out, oh, it reminds me of being homeless.
oh, okay, yeah.
It, it,
So for you, it wasn't a good
no, it
experience.
created some internal mechanism like kind of, we don't have anything. We don't have anything.
Okay,
Yeah, and it took me a minute to figure it out, but once I figured it out, it's like, oh, okay, and now I love it.
yeah,
And it's like a part of our lives. We do it every chance we get. And the kids love it. And, and it's like, oh, I'm glad I figured that out instead of like doing what I would have done 20 years ago and just fuck it, throw it all away.
yeah.
And it's, and that's, And I think people's brains are hardwired, to, and it's not like, I mean, it's what keeps us alive as a species. And now we have all this advancement. We don't have to worry about all these things, but I think there's a lot of stuff that we just haven't learned to let go of. And that violence probably could become, because that violence that we're so consumed with as a culture, it could come from just this instinct to survive, but now it's based off of what side of the political line you are, or whatever social issues you think are important that are not, like bathrooms. You know, like if you like in Lawrence, the way it solved it by just making them all,
Men, women,
yeah,
general,
yeah,
one door,
yeah,
one
yeah. I mean, they don't do that when you have a bathroom with multiple stalls,
right.
but that was how they fixed it.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
and there's no problem.
Hmm.
I don't know anybody that has a shitty bathroom story concerning that issue.
I've never even before it. I
Yeah,
didn't know. I didn't know it was a thing.
yeah.
Before. I mean, I can see the point.
I mean,
Rogan talked about it. How there's guys that like to dress
uh-huh,
because they get off on it,
yeah,
like it's a thing to them.
yeah.
Which yes,
And
that is
there are people who are interested in things that are not healthy for society,
yeah,
you know? But and that's not an argument saying that that person needs to stop being that way, but they need to be respectful of the people around them when they're in that mode,
correct.
you know? And it's no different than like someone that smokes cigarettes and like, well, I smoke in church. Well, you can't do that. But I smoke cigarettes. I'm sorry, you can't do that.
Hmm.
You can smoke that cigarette in your house or in environments that allow it, but and that level of common sense, I think we're losing, you know,
Yeah.
like,
When did a lot of this start? I feel like where was that bakery where they the Christian bakery
oh, you
that
wouldn't bake the cake.
for the gay
Yeah.
couple?
Yeah. I mean,
And honestly, like, okay, say me and Tara went to get a cake for our wedding, and somebody was like, "Oh, we don't bake cakes for
yeah.
straight weddings or whatever."
Uh-huh.
It's, I'm just saying,
Yeah.
I probably would have gave him $20 and said, "Thank you for being honest.
Yeah.
You're right. You have your
Yeah.
that's your opinion.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah. And
your belief,
that was the whole thing about like,
and if you can stay open, do
yeah.
it." I
Yeah.
mean,
Like I saw a comic do a bit about like along those lines of like during civil rights, like fighting for your right to eat at that counter. And once you get that right, don't go there,
hmm,
you know?
yeah,
And that can apply to whole, like, I never used to shop at Walmart because I don't like going places that are have me angry before I even park my car. And that's not the one in Lawrence is not bad, but the one here, there's two here. Every single time there'd be a diaper in the parking lot.
yeah.
Trash.
Not
And
being respectful of their environment.
exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
When there's a trash can right by every return cart
Uh-huh.
thingy. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's like, and it's a good rule of thumb. Like my dad used to do this thing where we go eat somewhere and he tried to get them to make the food like they do at somewhere else.
Oh.
What are you doing? Why don't we just go eat there? Well, I don't want to eat there. But that's where they make it the way you like it, you know?
Hmm.
Yeah. And that's what actually changes behaviors is when if you're associated with somebody that you're either uncomfortable around or they're just not pleasant or they're constantly trying to take advantage of you, just stop associating with them. If you don't like where you work and you can't change it, the system, go somewhere else where you fit in, you know? And it's like, but there it goes, that language, you got, that language of the war on this and the battle of this, like, no, you don't have to do that. Life is a lot easier if you just go to the places and hang out with the people that you like and like you know?
Hmm.
And yeah, obviously, if someone's mistreating you or uncomfortable, you find out why, because maybe you're doing something. Maybe it's you, you know?
Yeah.
And and again, it goes back to just the dialogue. Like, I think, and I know I was guilty of this. Like, even the internal dialogue we often ignore through whatever we want to medicate ourselves with, you know,
Yeah.
and or surround ourselves with. It's like, well, I'm going to convince myself I'm okay if I go to that place, you know, like going to the bar all the time and just, and then you lose a sense of what reality is. And that's where I was. Like, I didn't know what reality was anymore. It took like 2 weeks for me to like get it together. And like, and then I remember one day I just felt like I woke up. Like, wow, this
Yeah.
is different. Yeah. I don't know if you've ever been addicted to anything, but
Uh,
it consumes you. It
yeah.
takes
Well,
everything.
smoking.
Yeah. But something that, to a point where if you don't have it, like, you're probably going to go to the hospital.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah. Like,
Like drinking. Yeah, you
yeah.
can get it. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it was bad, dude.
I mean,
It was real bad.
yeah, like pot now. I
Yeah.
mean, it didn't do that because I was able to quit that like
Yeah.
overnight.
Well, because it didn't give you anything, you
Right.
know, and
Yeah.
the cigarettes give you something,
Hmm.
you know, or whatever, you know, people who watch, like, who are hardcore sports fans, or, you know, like, think about the level of madness you have to be in to fight another stranger because they're wearing a different team jersey than you.
That's pretty
You
bad.
know?
But usually there's alcohol involved in one of
True, but
those.
because it lowers your inhibitions and makes you feel more
Yeah.
comfortable to be like that.
But one thing that because you probably remember from back in the day, none of us really watched any sports or anything like
Mm-mm.
that. And I think what I liked about when Tara was like, "You want to go to the basketball game one time?" Sure, dude.
Yeah.
I had a blast. It was fun
Oh
as
yeah, I've
shit.
had so much fun. Yeah.
And you realize like everybody, 10,506 people is what Coke Arena holds, can put life on hold
Uh-huh.
for two halves of a
Yeah.
game.
Yeah.
Politics don't matter.
Nope.
Nothing else matters. Like it's such a
Yeah,
like,
the camaraderie, and then you have
yeah,
the association where we're gonna get hot dogs and we're gonna tailgate and we're
yeah,
gonna, you know, and I think that's important, you know, and that's very much a, you know, imagine being in the Roman times and going to see the gladiators.
that'd be a little different, but yeah,
But it was the same for them.
yeah, it was, yeah, except for somebody was dying.
Yeah. But people died all the time there,
True, yeah,
you know?
um,
Like in the Old West, if you looked at somebody wrong, they shot you
true,
because you might be a threat. About to go for 3 months by myself. I don't need you following me. You just gave me a dirty look.
yeah,
You know, I'm not taking that chance, you know,
yeah. That's
but it's interesting. Like, I don't know. American culture is unique in the world, I think.
mm,
Just, and we're such a young culture compared to the rest of the world, you know, but we're so advanced. Like, the quickness by which we came to this level of dominance over the world is insane.
100 years.
Yeah.
Yeah,
The Industrial Revolution, and then, you know, all these things that are big deals,
yeah.
big
How
deals.
insane is it?
I mean,
Like,
you talk about like the amount of families that have generational wealth now in this country just in the last 100 years.
yeah,
It's wild. Like people like, I mean, I'm not talking like people like Nancy Pelosi, but people who actually started a company or business and it has just grown to such a massive, you know, Ford and Walmart, like, generational wealth.
yeah.
Like, it's not going to stop. It's going to keep going.
Like, yeah.
The Rockefellers, and,
Wow,
you know,
Rockefellers, man.
yeah. And then
That's crazy.
that is, you watch, if you really pay attention to history, you see how those families have shaped the direction this country's gone in. Like the Kennedys were bootleggers.
Yeah,
You know, it's like this one thing, and everybody knows who the Kennedys are.
and then
The Waltons. I mean, it's just,
he pulled money from the stock market and causes the
yeah,
Great Depression. Damn, like he was a part of it.
yeah,
You know,
yeah.
that's insane.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you know, and it just takes the idea, but like I think it was Vanderbilt. Is he the one that bought the boat?
I don't remember.
He started off with a small boat and
Yeah.
like just doing. I don't remember what it was like. Um,
Yeah.
tuggy. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't remember. It was something with one boat, and then it went on and on and on. He went up and up and up
Yeah.
to what he became,
Yeah.
which was insane.
Yeah. If you have the right product at the right time, I mean,
Mm-hmm.
that's a lot of it. Like you, all these, like 3M. If
Yeah,
you come up with a great idea, they're coming after you,
yeah,
and now it's theirs. And I think, you know, like even like Elon, which I can't stand the guy, but yeah, he has ideas, like Steve Jobs ideas, and then you surround yourself with people that can make those ideas happen. But you got to have the idea first,
yeah,
you know? Like yeah, Elon's a psycho, he's crazy. But that's how everything came about. You know, people push back on Henry Ford,
yeah.
you know? The airplane, you know, those guys thought people thought those guys were nuts.
Uh huh.
The Wright brothers.
Yeah,
Yeah. But you like there was a long time ago, he doesn't remember this, but I invented the iPod. We were downtown riding bikes. I was like, man, I wish we had like something all our music could like go into
and not skip.
and not skip.
Remember when we rode with CD players,
Yeah.
the little
Yeah.
Walkman things? Yeah,
It was like it was just an idea. Like
I remember
I
when that came out.
didn't know how to make that happen.
I know, but only if we
Yeah.
would have.
I
Yeah,
remember the first time I saw a video of this new technology called the touchscreen. Because it was so big, it was on the TV. Like,
yeah,
look at this.
yeah,
And now our cars have them. Like everything has a touchscreen.
yeah. It's
And now it's
common
normal.
practice.
It's just
Yeah,
normal. We don't think about how amazing that is.
yeah. That's how Elon always puts things too. Like the touchscreen. Was what $5,000 TV back in the day,
Yeah.
and now the
Yeah.
most basic of
Yeah.
things have a
Yeah.
touchscreen.
But yeah, have all your little crazy ideas, dude. Just stay out of government.
Yeah,
Stay out of it. You're not qualified for this. You're an opportunist.
yeah. I can't believe he has time with all the
Well,
projects.
that's how those people's brains are wired, man.
Yeah,
Sometimes I don't understand how I do everything I do, you
yeah,
know? Like all the moving parts of that house I take care of, the navigating, talking to everybody, connecting. So I put it as like, we have too many people connecting or making dots and I can't connect them all,
oh yeah,
you know?
yeah.
And you have to know when enough's enough, you know?
But sometimes I have to live in those beautiful disasters.
Hmm.
I talk about how much I hate my job or
Then
whatever.
why are you so good at it?
A lot of it's the people.
That does help. That does
Yeah,
help. Yeah. Yeah.
but
That's a motivating factor for sure. If you
but
like the people that you work with, it does make the job easier to suffer.
but when we slow down, like Boeing went on strike and everything, and it gets kind of boring.
Mhm.
Dude, I cannot do easy going. I'll go
Yeah.
home.
Uh-huh.
Like I just, mm-mm.
Yeah.
To be there, I need a complete disaster. What?
What makes you think that? Because I understand that. I just wonder what you think caused that. Like that's what how you think you need to be. It's obviously giving you something.
It goes back to me being like I always think about it. I was kind of like this too with riding.
Uh-huh.
Was I not the last one on the ramps every time the borderline closed down?
Yeah.
Like I just
You,
my
I
mind. I
know, but
just
you would
I
do
have to.
something over and over and over, and I watched you do bar spins with your eyes closed.
Yeah,
I watched you air out the ramp really high one day, and you missed the bars, and they went around 1.5 times, and you
and
didn't panic. You
yeah,
just, I saw the fear in your eyes, and you just grabbed the bars and came in with your bars backwards.
yeah.
But you had done all that stuff so many times that the level of comfort that you had in it, that's what was impressive to watch. Is you just, I would watch you learn something, but then once you figured it out, it was figured out.
Yeah.
You didn't have to think about it anymore, you know? And I mean, I do that on the table saw. People see some of the stuff I do and like, what the, it's like, I've done this so many times. I'm comfortable.
Yeah.
You know, this thing doesn't scare me.
Like maybe I'm more comfortable in fight mode rather than flight mode.
Maybe.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, I know that adrenaline doesn't help me.
yeah.
That's not, I don't know what to, I
I don't
freeze
remember the
out.
last time I.
Yeah. That's like I never wanted to get in fights because I know I would be useless.
Yeah.
I just freeze up.
Me too. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Even when we rode in front of crowds, that I don't know. I don't know that I had like adrenaline then either. I
Really?
just felt like it was just. I was pretty good at choking at contests though.
Yeah. Yeah. Because it wasn't fun.
Yeah.
You
It
know,
wasn't
when
just
you
riding with the boys.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. It's like the contest thing never interested me. Because I don't know, I just didn't have like a competition. Like I didn't want to compete.
Yeah.
You know?
I had fun. I had more fun at the grassroots level, like contests. Those were
Yeah.
fun.
Yeah.
But the big ones, with the big banners everywhere and all that stuff.
Yeah. Sponsors.
Yeah.
Like the ones where like it's mostly people that don't know anything about BMX. They're
Right.
just spectators. Like
Yeah.
yeah. They're wanting to see something ridiculously over the top, and it's like, well, that's not why we're here.
Yeah. All the
Yeah.
Triple Crowns, which ended up becoming the Do Tour or whatever, is
Yeah.
like literally they had stands there and it was free to get in. And it was it was literally like a little festival that went on there,
Yeah. Yeah.
I think probably the coolest part was they had like the best food back in the athlete tent.
Yeah.
But other than that, the ramps sucked. They were noisy.
It's that perfectionist in you. Those Solana guys never bitched about any of that shit.
Well, he saw the Vegas. That made me ride so much better that we would just move it around constantly all the time with and it was just pretty janky, but that helped me a lot to be able to ride. Like, yeah, then when I went and rode Borderline, like I felt like, oh, it's stable.
Yeah. Oh, you hated that park in Salina.
Which, oh god.
Yeah.
Well, it felt like, the park was good.
It was, but the metal, he skimped on the metal. He didn't want to pay for the metal.
And I'm trying to remember now, was it too thin or did he have not enough going up to it?
Not enough of that.
So it was like this so it was like,
yeah,
and then up again. Yeah. Except for the mini ramp was like the best mini ramp ever.
Yeah.
But Buzzy.
Yeah.
And he was awesome, dude.
Yeah, yeah. I saw him. Well, I think it was Cole's funeral. I saw him.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that got blown out of proportion when I said something about that way back in the day, but
you were mad, dude.
Yeah. I don't know. I love that guy. And back then, I haven't talked to him probably in 20 years,
I don't think he has anything to do with BMX anymore.
Really?
I don't think so.
All right.
Yeah.
3 hours, 11 minutes.
Oh, yeah.